Order in the court. Orders in the court. This is the court of relentless relationships where excuses are denied, feelings are cross-examined, and accountability is mandatory.
Your Honor, today's docket is absolutely stacked. We've got emotional damage, bad decisions, and at least 3 people who should have definitely signed a prenup.
Typical Tuesday. I see here we have multiple counts of I didn't think it would end this way, and one charge of they've changed, and my favorite, failure to read the fine print.
Objection, Your Honor. Most people don't even know that there is fine print.
Overruled. Okay. Ignorance on the count of contract is not a defense. Now sit down, Miss McCool. You're dangerously close to making sense.
Noted. For the record, the prosecution would like to remind the court that love makes people stupid.
Sustained. Love has been getting away with crimes for centuries.
So who's testing today, Your Honor?
Yes. Well, we have called in a professional, a man who has seen the wreckage, the paperwork, the lies, the settlements, and a man who knows exactly what happens when romance meets reality.
Sounds pretty expensive to me.
It usually is. Court's now in session. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the trial before the vows with Glenn Lawrence and Gia MaCool.
Let's go.
Glenn and Gia, truth on fire. They're calling out the world's desire. From fake ideals to moral decay, they're lighting up the modern age. No one's safe, not the church, not fame. They're flipping the script, rewriting the game.
What's up, James? Happy to have you.
Thank you. I rarely get introduced with the term "sexy" in there, so I appreciate that. That is
well, you know what?
Especially from conservative Christians, I love being described as sexy. That feels good. But
you know,
yeah,
like, I'm like the worst conservative because like they don't like me. You know, it's like they don't like me because I'm too honest with them.
You're a contrarian and iconoclast. That's why I like you, because even if I don't agree with what you say, I damn sure know you mean it. You know, so because you're just never afraid to say. I remember the first time we participated in a debate together some time ago. I just remember thinking, boy, this guy just says the quiet part out loud. So I love that, and that's why, like I said, I was thrilled to come on and have a chance to chat with you. I know we will not agree on everything, if not much of anything, but I love the way you say it, and I love how you stand by your point of view. So no, listen,
I appreciate
I'm thrilled to be
that.
here. It's good to be here.
I like to just like there's not enough time in the world to like dance around and just be like use kid gloves. I think we have used kid gloves on people far too long, and we have made them soft, and they just need to hear the honest part. And if it's blunt and it's just brutally honest, well, then that's just what it is. And your problem's not with me, your problem's with the truth. So
yeah. And I mean, look, I think we only move forward in this when people like vociferously argue with each other. And then, it's like, hate the sin, don't hate the sinner. I think you have to just like fight ideas, not people. I think at the core, unless someone's really advocating for something that they know is just destructive and brutal and anti-democratic or whatever it might be, I think most of the time people are I forget who said it, but they said that most people aren't evil because they're evil. They mistake it for happiness. Like they think the devil sends a limo and God makes you take the stairs. And I think that's what's happened in society is people just very often, they don't want to disagree with each other openly. They disagree with each other in secret behind closed doors. They give each other the finger through the window of the car. But if they were standing in front of the person, they probably wouldn't react that way. They'd probably try to find some commonality and, okay, where do our paths diverge? And maybe that's the place to find commonality again, even if ultimately we're not going to agree on everything. We might agree on some basic principles and that might get us a little closer. So I don't want to have conversations just with people who agree with me,
Yeah, that's my whole approach with the red pill, because like I agree with everything they say when it comes to the description of the problems that men are facing.
Right.
But the prescriptions, that's where I differ. It's like I can understand like some tools are useful, but if the idea of rule zero is like anything that works, there's no morality to it. I'm like, well, I have a problem with that because rape is anything that works. So like,
Right.
you know,
Right.
so
Yeah, and
like
what
that,
my feeling with the red pill, space and the manosphere or whatever you want to call it is I think they deserve a tremendous amount of credit for asking the right questions.
absolutely.
Where they start to run into trouble is when they start offering answers, because I think reasonable minds can disagree on the answer. But
Yeah.
identifying the problem is a big piece, So I like the fact that they're there calling out the problem. And then if we, don't agree and we don't align on what's the solution for that's okay. I think that's like what democracy is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about we identify a common problem and then we all throw out our solutions and may the best idea win.
So like, here's what people don't understand. Divorce lawyers don't meet you on your best day. They meet you when trust is gone, resentment is high, and you're trying to legally destroy somebody you once promised forever to.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you meet people at their most terrified. Like you meet people whether they want to admit it or not, sometimes they're incredibly angry or they present as angry, but really what they are is terribly hurt and terrified, because it's they're literally trusting you with the most. When someone comes into my office, they're trusting me with the most important things in their life.
Yeah.
I actually yeah.
Don't you find that most of the people that, or at least my experience in family law, most of the couples that have come in, they both think that they did this, each side thinks they did it right, but they don't want to take any accountability for how their part played in the ending of the relationship.
Could not be more correct. That is absolutely an accurate assessment. I often tell clients, because they'll come in and they'll say, look, I just want to be fair. I just want to be fair. And I say to them, in 27 years of practice, no one has ever sat across from me at this desk and said, I really want this to be awful and protracted and terrible, and I want to put your kids through college instead of my own. And if possible, I want to make sure my kids are definitely going to end up in therapy. And I want to just burn hundreds of thousands of dollars and also just decimate my relationship with my co-parent. No one ever says that. They all say, I want to be fair. And their spouse is in another lawyer's office saying, I want to be fair. The problem is their definition of fair is so subjective and so different from each other. And then there is this sense of like weaponized intimacy. Look, you know, as a married person, like if your husband, if he doesn't know your like soft spots, the things he could say that would just tear your guts out, then he doesn't know you very well. Like to have a good marriage, you have to like show this person what hurts. You have to show this person.
They often know you
like,
more than you know yourself.
Yeah, they see your blind spots. And like, that's when that becomes weaponized against you. That's just horrifying. I mean, and my firm, when I started it, like I said, 25 years ago or so, my slogan was protecting what you value most. Because I remember thinking like, that's what these people are doing. Like they're giving me their kids, their stability, the finances that create their stability. Because back then I wasn't representing billionaires. I was representing celebrities. I was representing like, regular people, cops and teachers and W-2 wage earners. And these people were coming in and they were just in such pain. And I had I remember feeling the weight of that and thinking, as someone who manipulates people's emotional state for a living, like that's my job. Like my job is to make a judge feel good about my client, to make the other side feel scared, to make my client feel safe. I remember thinking, I could do a number on this person. Like they're so scared right now and so vulnerable that if I wanted to like jack them up to line my pocket, I could pretty easily. I don't have to use my powers for good, like it's like a gun, like in the hands of someone who's heroic and protective and chivalrous. That's a powerful tool for protecting. But in the hands of a villain, that's a dangerous thing that can cause a tremendous amount of harm. So I remember, my personal proclivity was to say, okay, I'm going to use this power and authority and trust in a way that's going to like serve their interests, even if they fight me on it. Like even like when your kid fights you when you're taking them to get, like medicine that they need at the doctor's office, or you're like, what that's part of parenting is like, no, you're not going to like this, but you need to do this, and
you're going to hate me. You're going to hate me today, but you're going to love me tomorrow. Yeah.
I remember looking at my now 28-year-old, also a lawyer son, when he was like 13. And he was sitting at the kitchen table just scowling at me because he was proposing something he wanted to do with his friends. And I was like, you're definitely not doing that, unapologetically. And I remember him just staring. And I remember saying, buddy, like, you're entering years that if you don't hate me once in a while, it means I'm a terrible father. Like, you're going to have to hate me sometimes. And now looking back, he laughs because he just got married a couple of months ago. And he's, closer to having kids than being a kid. And he says all the time, he's like, man, I don't know how you didn't just kill me when I was a teenager. And I was like, you'll see when you have kids. Like, it's part of the game.
I pride myself. I always say, like, my dad's never spanked me. And everybody goes, oh, wow, you must have been a really good kid. No, he punched me in the fucking chest. Okay.
See, my dad just scared me so bad. Like, my kids, I don't think I ever had to raise a hand to them because their mother, my ex-wife, who I'm very close with, she's a good woman. We just weren't a right fit for each other, but she's a good woman. She's been remarried to another guy for 15 years. So their marriage has done a lot better than my marriage with her did. But we got two great kids. We were great parents together. And like I said, her husband's a great guy. We all get on. Like, the wedding was such a weird love fest. Everybody was getting along.
I saw one of your episodes where I guess like you were talking about the wedding and you're like, you and your ex's husband were like, palling it out. Or like,
we're chilling. Yeah, we were buddies. We were like,
time.
Dude, I can understand this guy's life better than most people, Like, at one point she came over and she's like yelling at him for something. And I was like, I don't have to deal with that anymore.
It's funny because like when my mom divorced my stepdad and my dad became friends, and like they were like trauma bonding together. Like,
you have a lot in common. You have a lot in common, yeah. But I just, I think it's so that's such a great, to me, that's a great gift. Like that to have that kind of connection to another person that sustains even when the two of you realize, okay, the direction we were in was the wrong direction. But like I said, even the friendliest divorce, even the like least traumatic divorce is still really traumatic and really hard. And it still was really hard on kids. It's still not ideal. It's still not something like, I'm a divorce lawyer, but I'm not someone who is like, divorce is amazing and it's great and everybody should get divorced. No more so than a person in the military is warlike. It's like if anything, a person in the military, my father was a Vietnam veteran. And whenever he heard someone being hawkish, about military intervention, he would always be like, oh, have you ever been to war? Like, have you lost friends? Like, because my father, there were 5 men in my parents' wedding party and 4 of them died in Vietnam. My dad graduated from the Naval Academy in '66, went to Vietnam for 3 years. So, my father took war very seriously because he'd been through it and he lost people through it and many of his closest friends. So he was never a warlike person. He understood the weight and gravity of that experience. And so I think the same thing as a divorce lawyer. Like, I spend a tremendous amount of my time trying to pivot people in the other direction. I've written, 2 books on the topic, and a lot of my public speaking is about how to not end up in my office.
As somebody, like, as you mentioned, like in one of your episodes, you mentioned divorces like aren't just this sudden explosion that just happens.
No.
That's like a process of like 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, death by 1,000 paper cuts. I've always said like no single raindrop is responsible for the flood. It's the opposite of how we fall in love. I think we fall in love really fast. Like, we meet someone, we feel this deep connection, we feel a physical connection. Yeah, some clicks and it's just so fast. There's this feeling of like depth and connection. And I don't think we fall out of love that way. I think we fall out of love in this, like the way we go bankrupt, very slowly and then all at once. Like once we go off the cliff, we just go off the cliff.
Why do you think people ignore the small things that impact like marriages, like long term?
The same reason why I think people gain weight so easily, and that is it's lots of little tiny choices, and none of them individually seems like that big of a deal. And so it's like, oh, it's just this one thing, but like all the one things, when you add them up, is something gigantic. And so, I always said that the singular piece of wisdom that I think is the most useful piece of wisdom I've ever heard was that the hard thing to do and the right thing to do are almost always the same thing.
Yeah.
And the hard thing to do is to say out loud what you're thinking or feeling to your spouse. And even when they don't necessarily want to hear it. And like, things are kind of okay. So do I really want to rock the boat? And is this really that big of a deal? And is it worth having a discussion and maybe making this person feel defensive? And, we both work, and now it's like where do we want to ruin the evening? Is it going to turn into a fight? Maybe I'll just leave it. It's not that big of a deal.
But if you
And
like
that's
just base it on principle, then it makes it easier, right?
yeah. And I think if you hear it as part of a practice, like if you say, hey, look, I'm saying this not to pick a fight, not to criticize you. I'm your biggest fan.
Yeah.
I'm saying this because this is important. Like, this relationship is important to me. I want to be good at this. Like, this is a job. I signed up for a job. The job is I'm going to be your husband. You're going to be my wife. I want to be good at my job. I want you to be good at your job. I want to give you the feedback so you can be amazing at your job. And I want you to give me feedback so I can be amazing at my job, because this job's important to me. And I think if you can approach it that way, you're going to hear it as less of a criticism and more of like
As like them looking out for you.
Yeah, I got your back.
I always tell couples when I sit down with them, how you communicate with that person comes into play, because most women will do the whole let's have a talk, or I need to have a talk, right? And that's like the dreaded words. And every guy's like, no, not those words.
Or we need to talk. We need to talk.
Yeah, same
every
thing.
man, just the hairs on the back of his neck stands up when he hears that. We're like, uh-oh. Yeah.
You got to be able to sit them down. They got to be in a comfortable setting. And then it's more like, hey, put your arms around them, show them love, give them kisses, tell them you love them, tell them, hey, there's something that's important to me. Is it a good time to talk? Like, it's how you relay that information that's important, because I think women
in
know
general, men better than men do.
When they meet men, they think, well, he loves me and he should know. Like, they do this whole, he should just know what I like. And then men do the whole, right. And then men will do the whole, well, if I just provide and I'm loyal, then everything should be fine. So both sides go into the relationship incomplete. They're doing things and then they're wondering why they're resentful long term.
Yeah, well said. I think that women very often expect men to hear what they don't say. Women don't say it, and they expect men to have heard them. And I think that that's one of the superpowers of women, at least in my experience, is that y'all just see things that we don't see sometimes, and you catch things. Like, a conscientious, sensitive woman is the greatest ally in the world. They know what you need before you knew you needed it. And that's the coolest feeling, But for men, sometimes in my experience as a man and raising two men, it's not always like that. We sometimes need to be oh no, this is what I need from you. And here's the instructions. And oh, okay. If you give me the instructions, you give me the mission, I'm going to execute, but I need some clarity from you as to what it is that you want. And it's one of the, the classic dilemma of men and women is that very often when women are sharing something emotionally, a man is okay, this is a problem, and how am I going to solve it? And let's think about how I'm going to do that.
And natural problem solvers.
And sometimes a woman just wants. It took me until my 40s to figure out that sometimes a woman does not want Jim the problem solver. Yeah, they just want them to go, man, that must have been hard. That's really tough.
Let me tell you, that was one of the first things I learned. I was like, hold on, wait a minute. Do you want me to feel this with you, or do you want me to fix this for you? It was one of the first things I learned.
Good for you.
I learned it at the end of my marriage.
I learned it until I was in my 40s. Good Lord. I was already divorced.
I learned it at the end of my divorce, but still. I learned it as I was getting my divorce, but it was still worth it. It was still worth it.
The best secret weapon women have, I've talked about this a couple times, is, and I see it works on me. I always give the example, it worked on me. So, I during the week I have to wear a suit every day. And so I shave, I'm clean shaven every day. So you're catching me on a Saturday. So this is a day's worth of stubble, and I'm not wearing, a suit. But I remember I was dating a girl, and she had
is there stubble? I don't see any stubble.
Yeah, stubble. No, there's a little stubble.
I don't see any.
Yeah, a little bit of stubble. Because it's all gray now. That's why. Because it used to be darker.
If you could tell, I'm just embracing it.
Oh, mine is all gray now. But I would sometimes on the weekends I'd go a day or two without shaving, because it was a nice thing to have a break, from shaving. And I was dating this woman, and she whenever I would go to kiss her on the neck or whatever, she'd be like, "Oh, your beard is so prickly." And I remember thinking what now I got to shave on the weekend if I'm going to see you too. This is this is the one couple thing I get to do for a couple days. I don't have to shave, and you should be happy I'm kissing you to begin with. And I remember thinking of course that relationship didn't work out. That wasn't the reason, but maybe it was part of the reason. The next woman I dated had the exact same issue, which is I have a stubbly beard and she had sensitive skin. But here's how she handled it. The way she handled it is I would shave, and then she'd come up to me and she would like touch my face or kiss me, and she'd go, "Oh my God, it's so hot when you just shaved. Like, I love, you're like Don Draper on Mad Men. Like, you're so," dude, I would shave like 3 times a day. Like, I was so like, I would shave and I'd
You're
be
like,
like,
hold on, babe, hold on. I gotta go shave.
yeah, I just shaved. Like, I'm sure she would be
Do
coming
you want
over
to
and I
feel
would
my
shave.
face?
And I'd be like, oh, hey, I just shaved, you know? And
Guess what I'm doing?
It was the same thing. She just was smart enough that she had figured
Positive, yeah,
out.
positive reinforcement.
Positive reinforcement worked. Like, it works with me.
Appreciation.
You know?
Like, people want to say it's like compatibility, and I say, yeah, okay, it's compatible, but it's appreciation. If each side is constantly showing appreciation to each other and keep that consistently throughout the marriage, it's going to be a good result.
It's huge. Yeah.
So, James,
and the opposite
what
is
would you
incredibly
say-
toxic.
What would you say is like the most uncommon or the most common unspoken expectations that detonates marriages today?
Unspoken expectations that detonates marriages. So I think the problem in marriage today is a problem that we're having societally, and that is that nobody knows what's expected of them anymore. There was a period of time where there was some rigidity in our gender roles and in the way what was expected of men and what was expected of women. And I happen to be of the belief that those roles were too rigid. So I think growing up as a man who's now 53, growing up in the 80s, a man could either be Richard Simmons or Clint Eastwood. Those were like your 2 choices. There was nothing in between. You were either gay or felt nothing and were like a ninja.
No emotion. No
right,
emotion.
nothing. Icy. And the truth is, like, I don't think either one of those fits the majority of men. Like, the majority of men, we have stoicism in us, we have all those other things in us, but we also have sensitivity in us and compassion in our hearts and love in our hearts. So I think that rightfully, society said, okay, we got to figure out, like, women can be, strong and domineering and take charge and can handle, all the amazing things. Women can be doctors and surgeons and lawyers. Like, women can be anything, and men can be anything. Men can be teachers and compassionate and stay-at-home dads or whatever it might be. Like, we all contain multitudes. We don't have to be locked into these things. And we kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater societally. I really believe that we just sort of said, like, let's treat dandruff with decapitation, which I don't think, like, it will solve the problem, but it's going to create a whole bunch of other new problems. So I think that's what ended up happening, is that we just went so far in the other direction that now nobody knows what's expected of them. I think
And
women,
we're going like from one extreme to the next.
yeah, when women are a good spouse, they're being told, right, but are you a girl boss? Are you like out there crushing it in the world? Are you running the show? Are you, or if you're running the show and you're a CEO and you're okay, but are you a good mom, a good wife? Are you good at home? And if you're a good wife, are you being submissive to your husband? Because that's terrible. You should never be that. And, but also don't be too domineering of your husband. So it's like, everyone's just going, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it wrong. And there's a chorus of people on the internet telling me I'm doing it wrong. And men, it's the same thing. Be tough, but don't be so tough, and be compassionate, but don't be such a pussy. But also be a really good dad, but also like leave it to the people who know what they're doing. But also, and you kind of are like, okay, what do you expect of me anymore? Like, what am I supposed to do? And so I think that is created in marriage. Imagine that's how we feel about ourselves. Like, whatever we do, we know we're doing it wrong because there's so many people telling us we're doing it wrong. And now we're looking at our spouse and it's like, oh, they're doing it wrong too. They're doing it wrong. And if they were really my soulmate, if they were really my other half, my seashell, whatever you want to, then they wouldn't be doing it wrong. They'd never fail me. They'd be perfect, just like in every movie I've ever seen, a person's other half is. And that's what's happened. And then, of course, the quick fix is, okay, get rid of them. Just like you got a car, now the car doesn't, okay, get rid of the car, get a new car. Well, why don't we just take it in for maintenance? Why don't we
there's
preventative
not
maintenance?
No tune-ups?
Right. Like, no one even does oil changes anymore because they're like, oh, yeah, just like cars are disposable.
There's just not enough grace. And we have to understand that both sides are never going to be perfect or good at, like, there's always room for improvement. So if we're constantly like looking at what they're not doing and not seeing what they are doing, because I know in my own marriage, like, there's constant things that I need to do to improve. There's constant things that he needed to improve, but we didn't focus on that. We focused on the
Right.
good things that were going on. You know, we still do that to this
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. And what I'll tell you is good marriages, in my experience, what they do that I think the opposite is a real silent killer is you probably view your husband as a real human being
Hmm.
and real man and compare him to other real men who you meet or know of, as opposed to comparing him to an imagined ideal in your head.
Right.
Mhm.
Like, because I'll tell you right now, if I compare my romantic partner to an imagined perfect woman in my head, I guarantee she's going to disappoint me.
Yeah.
Because an imagined perfect person in my head, like I remember one of my younger son saying to me when he was in his like late teens, early 20s, and we were kind of, you know, banging into each other the way that you do. I remember him saying like, well, you know, Dad, like you're not like the perfect father. And I'm like, okay, you're absolutely right. Like I'm definitely not the perfect father, never claimed to be. I have no idea what a perfect father even is. But are you comparing me to like actual fathers, or are you comparing me to like an imagined perfect father in your head? Because I'll tell you right now, if I compare you to my imagined perfect teenage son, you fall very short. Like I can tell you all about my imaginary perfect son. He's really good at Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He like, you know, there's so much about him. He's so great. And you fall very short of that mark. But the truth
He
is,
knows
like,
how to like put his clothes in the hamper.
right. He
You know?
comes home every day and is like, Dad, it's so great having lights on. Thank you for paying the electric bill. But the
Exactly.
truth is, like, you know, look, I love you for who you are. Like, I love you for the real person that you are. And I hope that it, you know, part of marriage, I
That's
think
true.
a good marriage is just realizing that, hey, look, I'm not perfect. I'm going to fall short sometimes. I'm going to make mistakes, but this person believes in me. They cling to the angels of my better nature, and they want to just keep believing in me and loving me. And I to me, like that kind of connection to someone where I don't have to be perfect, you
Yeah,
know,
they
Yeah.
for
don't
this
they don't give up
person.
on you. I think that's the most important.
Yeah.
They keep trying. Like if you can
Yeah.
go, this is
Yeah.
why I say people avoid the hard conversations, right? They
Yeah.
avoid them, especially up front, like before they even go in.
Yeah.
And they do it because they think they're going to kill the desire, which technically, yeah, you will kill the desire because much of what people do when they have desire is on fantasy. It's not on reality.
Sure. Sure.
Right? So
Sure.
as soon as that girl or that guy that you have this illusion of what you think is perfect comes in and starts asking you real questions, all of a sudden it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, this is like real
Yeah.
issues. These are things I have to really deal
Yeah.
with. Maybe they're not so perfect after all. And then we
Well,
start
it's
putting
like
up those.
finding out. It's like when you find out the girls actually take shits and they stink. Like you're like, oh
Right.
my God,
You
you're
Right.
had to
not
go there.
Right.
perfect.
You had to
Right.
go there.
Right. Yeah, but you know what? Here's what I'll say is I do think that there is also like a depth of connection that comes with recognizing that like, hey, look,
Mhm.
like we can be different things to each other at different moments in the relationship. Like
Mhm.
there's a time like I've always, you know, thought like one of the things that's great about like, you know, like physical connection with a woman is that like you don't have to in bed be who you are in real life.
Yeah.
Like in real life, you might have the most equal relationship in the world, but in bed, you might like to get kind of thrown around, you know, or like whatever. Like, because who you are in real life and who you are in relationship and in different
Mhm.
aspects of relationship don't have to be
Have to
exactly
be
the
the
same.
same. No.
Like
Right.
I'm a very strong, dominant guy, but there's something about like when I'm sick about having like the woman in my life like be kind to me and take care of me and get very kind of maternal with me that feels
Yeah.
so lovely, and so I'm so grateful for that.
Well,
Now
yeah.
if
So
you
especially
tried
when
to
we get
do
the
that
man
energy to
flu,
me, exactly, well, because listen, if I get a cold, I'm like
the man
every
flu,
other
we're
man.
dying.
I'm dying
We're on
100%.
deathbed. We're on our deathbed as soon as we get the
100%.
sniffles. Okay.
If I get the sniffles, I'm dying and you don't understand. But the truth is, like, if a woman related to me with that maternal energy in the day-to-day of our relationship, I would
It'll
hate
be a
it. I
problem.
would
It'll be a
hate it. It would be
problem.
a real
Yeah.
problem. I would feel like, no, this is not your role. I don't like that. It's not how I am. I'm a problem solver. I like being kind of dominant and chivalrous. But again, you don't have to be in every aspect of relationship exactly the same. There can be in this moment, I'm going to be very gentle with you. In this moment, I'm going to be a little heavier with you. In this moment, I'm going to be corrective of you. In this moment, I'm going to be nothing but sympathetic and empathetic to you. And I think good relationships, there's just room for that whole palette. There's room for that whole thing. And we know that. We know that because if you have kids with somebody, you know that like there's times when they're mom. Well, you're also like having sex with that woman. So like you're you know like she's capable of being both your romantic sexual partner and a mom.
And their
like
mom.
and there's nothing incompatible about those things. In fact, it's like really lovely that someone can be both of those things. This guy can be a hard charging man. And he can also be a kind, like I watch some of the dudes I do jujitsu with who could snap your neck with their thumb. And they're with their daughters and they're like making pigtails and watching videos on YouTube about how to do a particular hair thing. And there's nothing makes that, they're not less masculine for that. If anything, they're more. It's like, dude, you're not insecure at all, you know?
Since you're big in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, do you know who Big Mike is? With the red handlebar mustache?
Oh, yes.
Okay. He trains at the gym right down the road from me. Like literally, it's at the corner of my house. And I used to roll around with him before I had knee surgery. And he's one of the nicest guys, sweetest guys you'll meet. But he'll kill you. He'll kill you. Like we would go lift together. Like he'll still kill you.
Some of the guys I train with are special forces. Some of them like FBI SWAT. Some of them are they're just murderers, and but they're just like, they got nothing to prove. They don't flex.
Well, it's kind of like what Mad Dog Maddox would say, right? Like, be polite to everybody, but have a plan to kill everybody.
But like these guys too, like you scuff their shoe in a bar, or you they don't bump into them. They're like, they let it go. They don't because they got nothing to prove. Like they don't have to prove they're tough. They know they're tough. Like real rich people don't have to flex their wealth. Real tough people don't have to flex how tough they are. Like they know it, and it's fine. They don't need to put on a show about it. I've always said it in my own career that like the lawyer who does the we'll see you in court. I'm like, it's empty barrels make the most noise, man. Like that's not the lawyer that scares me. Is when I go, well, I guess we're gonna have to try the case. And they're like, yeah, I guess so. You know what? Good. Let the judge, have to earn their money for a change. Anyway, how's your family? Everybody's good. And I'm like, oh shit, this guy's not the slightest bit afraid. Like he's just, we're gonna try the case. Let's go do it. Like he's not even afraid, And so to me, that's more impressive.
Oh yeah. Like now we're gonna take it to places where most relationship conversations don't like to go. They don't like to talk about sex, and we're gonna get into it. All right. So sex is not a side issue, it's a pillar in relationships.
Sex is the glue. Sex is the glue.
And when that cracks, like the whole structure just shifts.
100%.
Wouldn't you agree?
100%.
Yeah, like there's a I think like women weaponize sex. Like I always talk about this in my tweets and whatnot. And then men weaponize incompetence. Like when they're not getting the sex, then they're like, well, I can't do this for you, right? So each side kind of does it, and then they call it boundaries. But I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you're onto something. I think that in modern society, and particularly with the advent of social media and the proliferation of social media, I think you can always find someone who'll agree with however you handled something, even if you handled it terribly. So when a woman gets on and says, well, I'm not giving him sex, instead of saying, is that really going to solve the problem? Or is it just going to add darkness to a night already devoid of stars? Instead it's like, you go girl, yes, and that's not helpful. Like what's helpful is not having a Greek chorus of people agreeing with your misguided point of view. It's actually better to have people around you push back a little bit and go is that really going to accomplish what you want it to accomplish? And, I think there's no shortage of reasons why we all don't owe each other anything. Yeah. Like I'm sure I could look at your day and deconstruct it and say, here's why your husband owes you a thank you. And I could look at your husband's day and deconstruct it and say, here's why she owes you a thank you. Yeah. And then both of you could walk into the room with a sense of entitlement and a sense of you better be nice to me. Like, look at everything as opposed to entering it with a sense of, you know what? Like, I'm grateful. I'm grateful
that
for
gratitude,
everything you've done for me today. I'm grateful for the opportunity to get to do the things I got to do for you today. And if you meet that with, damn right, I absolutely deserved it, ruin is around the corner. Ruin is around the corner. Whereas if you meet it from the place of, You're lucky? No, I'm lucky. I'm the
Yeah.
lucky one. Like, then there's just this sense of like, oh man, like
Appreciation.
we are thick as thieves. Like we are
Yeah.
each other's back. Like if I look out for you and you look out for me, we're all both being looked out for.
Well, see, that's what I have said numerous times. That the biggest problem that I noticed in relationships, something I've learned in my own failed divorce, was that, you know, once we started thinking about what I'm not getting, my needs, and start individualizing it rather than asking the question, am I meeting their needs? If
Yeah.
if my job is to meet their needs and I'm just focused on meeting their needs, and their job is to focus and meet my needs, then we're not worried about what we're not being met. We're so
Right.
focused on making sure that we're doing, you know, what we're supposed to do for each other. But I
Yeah.
will say this, and I think you agree with me, like, and men, listen carefully. Begging for sex kills desire and attraction.
100%.
All right.
100%. 100%. You
Bargaining
shouldn't
for
have to
desire
beg
is
for sex.
humiliation.
Yeah, I
No.
mean, listen, you know, I've said it before at the risk of being too profane. A blowjob you have to ask for isn't a blowjob. Like,
Yeah.
like it's just not. Like it's not like anything a person. If a woman says to me, "Do you think I look pretty?" Even if I say yes, you do, it does not hit the
Yeah.
same as if I walked in the room and I went, "Wow, God, you look good. Boy, I've got the prettiest girl in my life." That hits because I didn't have to. You didn't have to ask for it. Like, and of course, I understand. Like, if your partner isn't giving you compliments and you need them, or your partner's not giving you sex and you need it, then yes, you ask for it. Okay, I get that. But once you've asked for it, it's kind of already ruined. Like what you get
Yeah.
is going to be like the NutraSweet version. It's not going to be sugar. Like what you really want is you want this person to freely offer this thing to you out of their desire to please you and to have you feel loved and seen, whether it's a compliment, attention, you know, presence,
So
sex, whatever it is.
so with women, like they tend to let affection become a reward system. And do you notice that this is something that maybe stems from the beginning with men rewarding and basically giving unearned privilege to women in the beginning, and it kind of like sets a path for the rest of the relationship?
Yeah, I think you could make that argument pretty strongly. I think, look, I think women figure out from a fairly early age that sex is a weapon, like
Right.
sex is leverage, right?
Right.
And women are the gatekeepers of sex primarily
hmm
because, you know, that's just the nature of male and female biology. You know, if right now the three of us decided to have a contest where we're going to take off the mics and run out the door, which of us can get laid first, I guarantee she's winning. Guarantee. Like guarantee. It's the same reason why when people say like, oh, we have the joke about a hall pass, you know, like hers
Yeah.
is Brad Pitt and mine is, you know, Minka Kelly. And it's like, do you know the chances if she ran into Brad Pitt in an airport and said, by the way, do you want to run in the bathroom real quick and have a quickie? Of him saying yes.
That's what
Like
those family creation bathrooms are for.
Minka Kelly and said like, hey, just so you know, I'm permitted to have sex with you if you'd like to. She'd be like, who the hell? Like women are just being thrown opportunities for sex all day long. So I think women are the gatekeepers of sex. And because of that,
Yeah.
understandably, we use what we have
Right.
as currency. That's the economy. Like everything's an
Mhm.
economy. I don't think it's a dirty word to say something's an economy.
No,
Like a relationship's
yeah.
an economy. An economy is a trading of value. I'm going to give
Yep.
you something, you're going to give me something. And that's what economies are. You're not trading apples for apples because why would you? Like if I have apples and you have apples, we don't need to trade.
Well,
But
unless you
you're
have
trying to
Fuji
figure out how many.
apples.
Well,
But if
okay, but then you're looking at how many of this apple's worth how many of this banana.
But I've
you know?
always
And
said
true.
if you give a woman an illusionary crown, you can't like be surprised why she becomes entitled, right?
Of
So
course.
if we're rewarding women for sex, if we're putting that as a value system, as an economy,
Right.
like we're making that an economy, are we really surprised when they turn around and they use it as a bargaining
Well,
chip? And then
not
you
at
have to wonder
all.
why guys are checking out because they're like, okay, I'm tired of this, and they're just checking out because we put
Well, I think
value
a
to the
very
wrong
human,
things.
a very human trait is to take the power you have, the currency you have, and to leverage it to get your needs met. That's very human. I don't begrudge anyone that. I think that's a very normal thing to do. A baby does that. A baby, I cry, and if I cry loud enough, someone will come and meet my needs. Like that's a very basic human
Yeah, I've said
thing,
children are born selfish.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Of course. And by the way, I don't think that's a bad thing. Like
No, it's
I
not.
think
Yeah.
for
It's
a
a
woman,
human survival.
women have gatekeeping power when it comes to sex. And
Yeah.
so when a man isn't giving them affection, attention, compliments the way that he did when they were first dating, because look, guys, we all know when we're first dating a woman, we're trying to close the deal. We are all sunshine and rainbows. Oh, she's so beautiful and she's so wonderful. And we give her so much attention and we're present and we're dialed in. And then once
You
we
listen
get her, we're
to all
like,
the
okay,
stupid
I got that.
questions.
Right. And we want to hear about your cousin said what? I can't believe it. And you're very you're giving them a lot of attention and effect. And that's total, again, and they're throwing tons of sex at you and great sex, like enthusiastic
Amazing
sex.
sex, like jumping off the chandeliers.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's like gymnastics. And you're like, this is incredible. Look at how wonderful it was. Because why the hell else would you get married? You're like, oh my God. This woman makes me want to give up all the other ones, and this man makes me want to give up all the other ones. Because why? Because we're throwing everything we got at the other person to just be like, please, let's do it. This is the greatest hits, And then we start to fall into familiarity, routine, take for granted that we have what we have. And now, my sexual needs aren't getting met, or your emotional needs aren't getting met. Well, what do you have to currency? You can say, well, you know what? If he's not going to be nice to me, I'm not going to sleep with him. Or if I sleep with him, it's not going to be as enthusiastic. And the guy, he's like, if she's not going to sleep with me, I'm not going to be as nice to her. Like, well, I got to be all sweet and affectionate to her when she's not meeting my needs. She doesn't care about me that much anymore. And now we're off to the races. And that's that downward spiral that's just going to keep going and going and going. When, again, we all started out with the same abundance of optimism and the same abundance of hope. And we all wanted to go in the same direction. And somehow we all go down the same path.
So if we all go down to the same path, then my next question is marriage a social construct? If this is the path that we all go down, is marriage even a thing? Like, should we even be doing marriage?
Well, look, I think marriage is two different. I think marriage is a couple things. So one, from a religious perspective, marriage is a covenant, it's a bond, it's a call, it's a duty, it's the foundation of family, it's the path to reproduction and sort of fulfilling what our role is as humans to glorify God. Like that's the religious path of marriage. There's also a state version of that, which is it's a legal contract with the state as to what your rights and obligations towards the other person will be. And it can be changed by the legislature anytime, with or without your consent. And when they change it, if you decide you don't like it anymore and you'd like to opt out, it's too late and you're not allowed to. So it's two different things, marriage. Do I think that marriage in its legal definition is a social construct? It is 100% a social construct. It's a legal construct, and it was a function of the legislature. Marriage as a religious covenant, I think that's a harder question to answer. I think pair bonds have probably been around for as long as time, and I think that the structure of a family is very conducive and complementary to the way that children are born and raised and the way that our biology works, where a woman can only become pregnant really kind of once a year and is in this sort of gestation period for an extended period of time. And a man, very often, like she's going to need the assistance. There's a time in a pregnancy where a woman becomes very vulnerable physically. And having someone to protect her is really important. And then we as humans, like we're born half formed. Like you leave an infant out in the woods, it's going to die. Like we emerge from our mothers like half formed and hope whoever meets us on the other side is going to take care of us. So I think that marriage is to some degree like a social construct that was built around a necessary structure for humans to flourish. But we've added all this other stuff onto it that makes it a little bit harder to navigate.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that kind of brings me to because I hear the same thing that you hear about guys complaining about, what's wrong with the laws, the legal system, right? A lot of them, say, well, the laws
Yeah.
are weaponized. Men
Yeah.
feel that that like it's too much of a risk. There's a
Yeah.
lot of risks, no reward.
Yeah.
Um, what, how? So I decided I'm going to draft something, and I sent it to you.
Yes.
I sent you the draft of my marriage bill, marriage and integrity bill. Let me pull it up
Yes.
here. And I wanted you
I have it in
to,
front of me as well. Yeah, the Marriage and Family Integrity Act. I like the name of it. It
yeah,
has a very politics name.
well, because I guess marriage is very political these days, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm going to pull it up here on the screen. And I wanted you to kind of help like go through this with me.
Yeah.
And I have it up here, but for the people that are watching, like I kind of break it down into, okay, understanding that marriage is the cornerstone of society. As soon as we start weakening marriage and family creation, it will see a societal collapse, right? Like divorce and custody biases, with paternity fraud, parental alienation, false accusations have destroyed the lives of men and women and children alike. Would you say like that is something that you experience a lot in court, like those things?
Yeah. Yeah. So far, both of these premises I completely align with. I think that family is the cornerstone of civilization without question. I think the weakening of family has absolutely led to a lot of the social ills that we have, as well as all the weakness of our society. The aspects of society that are broken are largely a function of the broken nature of the family and the community. And the community is built up. I find it very entertaining that people claim to love America but seem to hate Americans. And so all America is just a bunch of Americans, and all America is just a bunch of families. So like families build communities, communities build states, states build our country. So you really have to be bought in, whatever your political ideologies are, you have to be bought into the idea of the family as the cornerstone. But
now this next one, like the next bullet point, where it talks about no fault divorce doubled the divorce rate after the introduction in 1970. Now I have learned since I wrote this, and because it goes into the next bullet, women initiate 70% of the divorces. From your own show, like I forgot whose interview it was. You said that like, maybe like half of those women are being pushed by their lawyers. Like, hey, like your husband's not giving you any benefits, you're not getting any financial, so that they're being like, hey, we got to get you some money going on, because you're cut off. So you're gonna have to file for divorce so we could even get this, get you some help.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have presented this statistic in a way that is designed to create the impression that women are like going to the casino, building up the bank, and then they've got a big enough stack that they're like, all right, I'm getting divorced now, and that's why they're filing so many divorces. And I think when I was on Daily Wire with Matt Walsh, he and I were supposed to be debating about marriage. We ended up just having a very civil conversation because he surprised me by opening up and saying he agrees with most of what I have to say, which was sort of disappointing. Well, I thought we were going to have an argument. But the truth is, women are.
I was there with Pearl right before that.
Sure.
When she had that sit down with Michael Knowles.
Pearl. Well, I was invited to do that. It was supposed to be a debate between myself, Mike Knowles, and Matt Walsh, and then they said, "Oh, and Pearl's going to be on your side," and I was like, "Yeah, no, I'll stay home, thank you." Because
so
I didn't really want to be aligned with her.
I got the call from Pearl asking me if I would be her producer out there with her in Nashville. So she flew me out there, and I helped her produce like the show and help her with her talking points and stuff.
Yeah. It was I was surprised at how well done the segment was. It was the first time that they had done something like that. So I wasn't sure what it was going to be. And when they said, oh, we're going to do it like a 2-on-1 and you're going to be on side with Pearl, I was like, I'm very picky about who my like debate partner would ever be. And I just don't know Pearl well enough. And what I'd seen of her, I kind of wasn't sure who she was in terms of her qualification to be talking about the subject. And so I just opted out of it. And I thought, okay, I blew that opportunity and that's okay. It's not the end of the world. I was a fan of Matt Walsh. I've always been a fan of his work. I think he's very entertaining. I don't always agree with him, but I find him very entertaining. And I agree with quite a bit of what he says. And when I got a call from them saying, oh, do you want to come out? We'll fly you out and you can have this debate with Matt. I was thrilled. And I do have to say, that was one of the best media experiences I've ever had. Daily Wire was one of the most professional productions. courteous to the core. Like they could not have been
Did they have you stay at the Bode?
I actually flew in that morning and did the show and then flew home. So
They put us up in the Bode. Really
Okay.
nice, like hotel, like downtown, like right by
I will tell you,
Broadway.
They put me in a room when first of all, they knew I was a fan of Matt's show. So they said, "Oh, do you want to sit in the control booth and watch us record the show?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I do." And they just let me sit there and we had like a great time. Like they were super friendly to me. And then when we did a lunch break, they brought in like a catered lunch. It was one of the best turkey sandwiches I've ever had in my life. And then we recorded the segment and it was super fun, super friendly. Like I said, everybody in there was a professional, super nice. But again, I mean, what we ended up talking a lot about was this idea of no fault divorce and is it really to blame? And are the fact that women are initiating these divorces a function of the fact that women are like using marriage to their own means and then cashing out? And I was because my professional experience has demonstrated to me that, of course, that does happen sometimes, but the majority of the time, it isn't that. It really is that, women very often commence divorce actions because their husband has left. He went out for milk and never came back, or he left for his secretary, or he whatever. And then they go, okay, look, he stopped paying the mortgage and the kids are living in the house with me. And what am I going to do? Like the house is going to go into foreclosure. He's the breadwinner. And we as lawyers say, okay, we got to file an action. And they're like, wait, I don't want to file an action. I'm not the one who wants to get divorced. He is. I want to figure this out. And I have to explain to them, look, to get you the financial relief that you desperately need to prevent your house from going into foreclosure and your kid from getting kicked out of the private school that they've been going to since, first grade, I need to file a divorce action. And so it creates a problem because then very often too, men have the temerity to then go, I can't believe you filed for divorce. And it's like, wait, she didn't file, like she filed, but like you killed it and she buried it. And you're getting mad because she buried it?
Like, yeah.
Like you killed it.
So the system basically like benefits off the chaos, basically.
100%. I mean, listen, I get paid for the fight. I don't get paid to not fight. So that's why it's hilarious to me that I spend half the time, I spent half the day today, and it's Saturday. I spent half the day on the phone with a client trying to talk him out of filing a motion. Now, if I file that motion, I'm going to make $10,000, $20,000 in drafting, filing, and arguing that motion. And I'm trying to talk him out of it because I think long term, it's like he's fighting over this little tiny point and kind of losing, focus on the big picture items. And he's got the money, so he doesn't really care. But there's this part of me that's like, come on, man, like think clearly about this. I want you to 5 years from now, when you're done with this and you're in your post-divorce life, I want you to go, you know what, Jim could have taken tremendous advantage of me and weaponized my anger, and he didn't. Like he made a point of being rational for me when I was being irrational,
Is he thinking like he was trying to win rather than being happy at the end of it?
Yeah. And he's also trying to win on every little thing. Like this is like a little thing. And it's like, dude, just let that go. But see, this is the problem is that when I just had this little flurry of a debate on Twitter. And I just took a lot of criticism from our mutual acquaintance, Rolla Tomasi, where he essentially was saying, that because I dared to say that when a man, because I was asked by Jack Neal on his podcast, he said, what advice would you give to a man who's going through a divorce or going through a breakup? And this is a young man. I'm talking to a 25-year-old man. So he's younger than both of my sons. So there's something very paternal in me in this conversation. Yeah. And I said to him, I would hope that you would be the kind of man that you would want if your sister was being broken up with, or your daughter was being broken up with, that you would be that kind of man. That you would be dignified, you would take the higher ground, you would not allow your emotions to get away with you. You would just be the best version of yourself. And I got pilloried in the comments.
Oh, I know. And I thought it was
so women can just do whatever the hell they want. And my answer to that was, I'm sorry. So you're saying that when a woman is being irrational, unfair, illogical, and overly hysterical, the solution is that we should be exactly like that. Like that we should
Yeah,
be
and
like that's insane. That's an insane prescription. Like like you're
it's
saying,
funny because you say
especially
that
by the
'cause
way,
like
what's funny about that is it's coming from someone who wrote a book called The Rational Male.
rational
Is
male.
saying to
Yeah.
me that it's bad for men to be rational. But I was like, wait, what? I thought you were the person who was pointing that out for so long, you know? So I think that's the
Yeah.
challenge for me is that there's this sense that people seem to think that like taking the higher ground is like a sign of weakness or capitulation
Correct.
to the demands of
It's
the other
not.
side.
It's the
And
true
it's
strength of the
not
individual.
100%
What's
because
funny
it's
is like because
I
when
know
I went through
who I
my
am. I'm
divorce,
maintaining my frame, you know?
when I
I
went through my
agree.
divorce, like I got to the point where I had to get to a point where I realized where I'm part of the problem. And
Sure.
as angry as I was at what she did, I had to realize that I played a role in her making that decision because I created the environment for that individual to think that the decision that
Sure.
they made to cheat was the better option. So, and I had to take
100%.
ownership of that. And I realized once I was able to take ownership of that, I
It's
was less
huge.
upset with her
It's huge.
and I was
Yeah,
just
it's
more
huge.
upset with where I failed. And I think like,
You know, Glenn,
and I agree with
and what
you.
yeah, one of the things you're saying, Glenn, that really resonates with me, and we've talked about it before, and it's present in the writing that you did. You know, this concept of the legislation is like I appreciate like someone looking at it and saying, "Oh, well, you know, like here's where I had culpability, and here's where it was probably my fault as well," and things like that. And I appreciate that, but like sometimes, you know, it's pretty clear that like it's somebody else's fault. Like somebody else
Yeah,
is
Mhm.
more at fault than you know
absolutely.
than you were. But you know, like to some degree, it's everybody's fault or nobody's fault, but it doesn't
Yep.
really change anything. Like we are
Well,
where we
it's
are.
it comes down to keeping score. So I say this all the time: you can't keep a
Right.
score in the marriage. Like if I
Right.
constantly sat around and go, "I washed the dishes 5 times in a row,"
Right.
and you've only done one, that's keeping score. You know. So if
Yeah.
we're this is there's a lot of inconsistencies with the other coaches online. They'll talk about certain
Yeah.
things, but then they won't apply it to other things. We
Yeah.
can't keep score. So just because our spouse is acting irrational, that doesn't mean it gives us the right to do the
Yeah.
exact same thing.
Yeah, I
I agree.
remember having a conversation with my ex-wife maybe a year or so after our divorce. And she was in kind of a dark place. She hadn't met the man who became her husband yet. She was feeling kind of alone. And I remember we were like standing watching like one of our sons on a sports field. And she said, "You know, you could have been a better husband, you know, or something like that," which is fair comment. And I remember saying to her, because I was sort of kind of exhausted, and I remember thinking, okay, and I said to her, you know, look, let's say it's entirely my fault. Like, let's say you were the absolutely perfect wife from day one, and everything that went wrong in our marriage is entirely my fault. It was wholly to blame and solely to blame. Now what? Now what? We're
Yeah.
divorced. We have 2 kids. Now what? Like what do we do from here? Because I don't have a time machine. I can't go back and be a better husband to you. And I know that if sheer power of will could make someone be the best husband and person in the world, I would be the best husband and person in the world. I'm flawed. I'm human. I'm impatient. I have tons of, if you trust me, I know my flaws better than anybody. All I do all day is beat myself up for my flaws. So with all my flaws, I am who I am. I'll work on the things I can work on. But what do we do from here? Like
Yeah,
we're
because we have to be
divorced.
parents.
We have
And
2
it's
kids. What do we do from here? Like,
and
because
it's not
I want to solve the
always
problem. Like I want to move forward.
it's not always our job to prove something to somebody or teach them that lesson.
Right.
So I
Right.
believe this because in a marriage, that spouse may do something wrong to you, but it's not our job to teach them where they're wrong.
Right.
Sometimes they have to learn other ways. And
Yeah.
one of the hardest things that you can do is take that as a woman, take the crown off. Be humble. You
Yeah.
know, don't try to teach them. Let them learn on their own. And I think this can also be for
Yeah.
also men. We can't be arrogant. If we think it's our job to teach them something, then we turn into this battle of competition. And then we're
Yeah.
down the same road as everybody else, which is failed
Yeah.
marriages because of it.
Well, I
Yeah. And
always tell guys
it's well
like,
said.
everybody like, as a man, it doesn't matter whose fault it is.
Hmm.
You always have the responsibility to act. So what are you
Right.
going to do about it? Like, okay,
Right.
this happened. Are you going to stay in this and fix this? Or are you going to call it quits and make it, call it an end? either way, you have to decide. You have the responsibility to act. It may not be
Yeah.
your fault. Like if my kid broke a window
Yeah.
playing baseball, it's not my fault that he broke the window, but I have the
Right.
responsibility to act
Right.
and fix that
Right.
shit, right?
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
like,
Well, and you know, I'll take it a step further. There's something I often say, which is it's not my responsibility, but it is my problem.
yes,
Like something doesn't have to be my responsibility. It might still be my problem. Like,
you know,
so
like,
like I still got to deal with this. I still got to live with this. So the question becomes like, what do we do from here?
Right.
Like I am a problem. I try to be in my life a problem solver, not just a problem identifier. Like problem
yes,
identifying is kind of the easy part. You know, and
yep,
that's one of my problems with modern politics is modern politicians are really good at pointing out a problem and pointing out how the other side's solution to it sucks, but they're
yeah,
not really good at proposing an actual solution. And I'm really interested in problem solving, not just problem identifying. So I think that in marriage, you know, and even in a divorce, there's an opportunity to sort of say, okay, look, like here's where we're at. What do we do? Like, what do we do with this? We have these ingredients. Can we take these same ingredients, like in a marriage, can we take these same ingredients and make something different with it? And I think the answer for most people is yes. Like in the hands of a skilled chef, you could give me the same 10 ingredients and give it to a very skilled chef, and we are going to make two completely different dishes. You
oh,
know,
absolutely,
and so when someone says to me like, well, you know, like the same ingredients, you can't make something different, it's like bullshit. You absolutely can. In the hands of someone who is paying close attention, has the right tools, has the right training, or is being patient and thoughtful, or following a recipe, you can actually accomplish something. Whereas it's so easy to just go, well, it's the ingredients, it's the ingredients. It's not the ingredients. It's not the ingredients. Sometimes the same ingredients can be combined in different proportions to make something far better than the thing it was. That's why I think people give up so quick on marriage. They just go, well, we have the wrong ingredients. I don't have the
Well,
right person.
because they're going by what was. And I say this all the time, like
Right.
we are not going backwards. We're not going to go back into 1950s. Women are not going to be stay at home. Like that's
That'll
not
never
happening
happen.
anymore. So
That'll
we
never
need to
happen.
now take the best of what was and the best of what is, and
yep,
we need to make
Right.
it work per couple because it depends on the couple. I talk to millions of couples and they have different, you know, yeah, each one has like a different structure in their relationship and it works
Right.
for them. That doesn't mean
And
you're
that's all that
wrong.
matters. That's
Mhm.
all that matters. Like this idea that there's some
Correct.
prescription that's going to be one size fits all for
Mhm.
everybody is so preposterous because the only, you know, whenever people say to me, like, because people ask me questions all the time in my relationship, you know, in media work, they'll say, like, well, how much sex should people be having? And I'm like, enough that both people are happy. Whatever
yes,
that is. For some couples,
Yeah.
that might be every day. For some couples, that
Right.
might be once a week. For some couples, that might be once a month. Like, as long as both people in the relationship are being honest and both people are satisfied, who cares? Like, who cares who initiates it? Who cares who, as long as the two people in that marriage are happy, it's no one else's business. But this comparison that's happening constantly now, primarily thanks to social media, I think that's the most toxic thing because you're always
Exactly.
looking at everyone else's greatest hits while you're living your gag reel. And
Exactly.
you're looking at your phone, not when you're having a wonderful time and a wonderful day. You're looking at your phone when you're bored or on the toilet or in the subway and unhappy. And,
Right.
and then you're looking at everyone's greatest hits and filtered, curated best photos. And of course, you're going to feel like, okay, my life sucks compared to theirs.
Exactly.
yeah. You know, it's funny because like my mentor, you've met him. I think he was on the first episode that we did because we first did an episode without Andrew the day before that
All right.
Saturday on Rule Zero.
Yeah.
And so you met Thor then. I mean,
Oh,
Thor has
yeah,
passed
sure.
away.
Thor. Yeah.
Yeah, I was he was my mentor.
Very
And he
bright
wrote
guy.
the book a Dominant Masculine Presence, and I was grateful to be his caregiver until he passed in May.
Yeah.
And you know, in this book, A Dominant Masculine Presence, he actually talks about like what to do about it, not like, you know,
Yeah.
what men should do. Like by creating this dominant masculine presence, you're not like swayed or, you know, controlled by what people are doing. You don't care
Yeah.
what they're gonna do. You're still gonna be you.
Yeah.
You still
Yeah.
gonna do what you're supposed to do, regardless
Yeah.
of what they do. That's irrelevant what they do.
Yeah.
Like it's just
Yeah,
you.
I mean, I think his philosophy is excellent in the sense that he was really talking about what, you know, in feudal Japan, people referred to as Bushido, which was like code, like a warrior's code. Like people had a
Yeah.
code. And if a man has a code or a masculine frame or whatever you want to call it, like there's a million terms for the same thing. But what it really is saying that, my beliefs don't require you to believe them. Like
Yep.
I know what I believe. I know what I do and what I don't do. I know what I agree with and what I don't agree with. And that doesn't mean I'm closed off and I'm not open to debate and discussion and reflection and revisiting my own principles and checking them and seeing, hey, do they still apply? Do they still fit? But I think there's tremendous value in like knowing who you are and what you do and what you won't do. It's one of the reasons why I think, people who have a religious faith that underpins their worldview, they have that as like a structure, like they have a strong structure. There's a book by Todd Gitlin. It was written in the late 90s called The Twilight of Common Dreams. And it was essentially about what was going wrong with America was that we don't actually like believe in anything altogether anymore.
Yep.
Like
There's
there was a time where whether you were a Democrat or a Republican, when someone said, like, I'm proud to be an American, we all agreed.
Yeah.
Or when the flags, went, we all stood, and there was the feeling of, hey, we might disagree about all kinds of things. We might disagree on what it means to be an American. We might disagree on what the duty of an American is. But we all agree that like, oh no, we're part of something special and something to
it's
be
funny
proud
because
of.
that's what I've been asking people, like, what is American culture? If you ask people
Right.
today what
Anymore,
American culture
it's
is,
nothing.
they don't know what it is.
anymore.
They can't
Yeah,
give you
it's
an
nothing
answer.
anymore because we that's the point is we no longer have this. I think look, a building without a foundation is going to crumble. A nation
Yep.
without a foundation is going to crumble. So of course it's very tempting when people say, oh, well, we should have a faith-based one, whether it's Muslim or whether it's Christian or whether it's Jewish, like whatever it should be. And look, if you look at nations that have a strong faith-based underpinning, of course, there are certain aspects of that culture that have a stronger pillar because
But there
they're
are also
built on
so
this
many.
common. But
But there are many
there's all-
issues. There's a lot of issues with those
course.
too.
Look, there's
That's why,
nothing more
like, I'm-
dangerous than a world that thinks that it has God on its side.
Yeah,
Because lots of people
exactly.
disagree about what it is God has to say, and reasonable minds can disagree as to what it is that God has to say. But I like the idea that America was e pluribus unum, like from many one. And the
Yeah.
many part isn't hard. Like the many part, you can get lots of people that think and feel and believe in different things in a room. That's easy. The hard part's the unum part, the one.
Yeah.
Like, how do we become one? What do we all have in common? And what it used to be is you came to this country from Italy, from Poland, from Germany, from wherever it was. You came here and you said, I'm an American now.
Yeah.
And I want to be a proud American. I want to bring the traditions of my culture. I want to bring the food. I want to bring the religious perspective. I want to bring the familial traditions. And I'm going to embrace that. But underneath it, I'm an American. I'm going to be an American. I'm going to join this society. I'm going to become part of this great thing. And
It was
that's
adding value. Correct.
That 100%. How can my cultural background bring value to America? How can I do for my country? How can my country, America, my country, like I am American and I'm proud of it. That is something we lost. And it's just like in the family, because again, it's the microcosm of society. It's the same thing when you lose those pillars, that sense of like, hey, what is our common bond here? What is our common project? What are the strengths that we build this on?
People wanted to work to bring business. It was all about like hard work, family, but now anything goes.
Self-sacrifice. It was about delayed gratification.
They had an overall objective goal was the outcome, a unified objective goal, not this individualized. What I want.
Which, by the way, children are a great example of that. Children are a great example of that because children, for the first year or so, give you almost nothing back. They're tremendously needy.
Year or so?
Oh, I mean, I'm being generous, but yeah, I mean, they really are nothing but a drain. They're incredibly difficult to navigate. But there's this sense of this is an investment that's worthwhile, that I love it, and I want to help. I want to do the hard work of this, and someday I'm going to see a reward for this, even if that reward is just the pride that I feel in seeing, this person become a successful human being. And I
funny.
think that's the same thing with society.
You You remind me of this story. Like, so I tell this to people all the time. Like I always was very honest with my son. Like, just very. I knew where he was at, right? And I remember going like to his like parent teacher conference with my ex-wife, and she's like telling me all these great stories about him. Like, oh my God, your son is so amazing. I love his curly hair. Like he's the most sweetest little boy in class. He mentioned he recognized that Timmy wasn't in class, and he raised his hand and he asked where he was, and I told him that he was homesick. And then he raised his hand again and said, "Can we pray for him?" And like, it melted my heart. And then she put like 3 papers down in front of me, face down, right? And she goes, "So all the kids have to take a standardized test, and I just want you to know, your son's amazing again." I look over at my ex-wife. I'm like, she's about to tell us that we have a dumb baby.
Yeah,
right?
we're about to get hit. Yeah, this is coming. This is a praise sandwich. That's what's happening right now. Yeah.
The lady's jaw was just dropped. She's like, "Oh my God, no, he's not dumb. He's just a little bit behind." And like I was like, "It's okay, it's okay. I knew he was never gonna be a doctor." But like he's my kid.
That's my fault. That's probably on me. That's probably my fault. That's probably carried on the Y chromosome. Yeah,
exactly. But it's like having that.
There's something beautiful about when you acknowledge the shortcomings. Like I remember looking at my sons and being like, okay, he's not particularly good at that. Or okay, he's not particularly good at this. And I think that that's part of the beauty of it, is that I think because they look at us eventually when they get into that individuation stage as opposed to the idealization stage of childhood development. And they start to look at you and go, "Oh, okay, so dad's not great at everything." And I kind of prefer that. I mean, I think that I don't want to be put on a pedestal.
So what in the bill would you say is your main contention with?
Yeah. So again, you identify a lot of problems really, really well. You define certain things really well, which I think is half the battle. Where I think you start to get into challenges here is what this will look like in practice. In the law, we think in generalities, but we live in details. And so as a lawyer, I'm always looking for where would something be improperly weaponized? And so that was where my criticism of this, when I get to section 3, which is marriage as a covenant and a contract.
Yeah.
Marriage will be treated both covenant law and contract law. No fault divorce is reclassified as a contractual breach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the challenge I have with that is the filing spouse is deemed the breaching party unless substantial grounds exist. Now, anytime there is a term in legislation that has a subjective definition, my radar goes up. So I'm on the legislative committee of the New York State Bar Association Family Law Division. So I help write and shape the legislation that is reviewed by the New York State Legislature for the purposes of the Domestic Relations Law and the Family Court Act, which is really the 2 sets of laws that govern everything related to family law in the state of New York. And every state has their own versions of that. So I'm always looking for things like substantiated, or when you make a presumption, you're creating what we call in the law burden of proof. So, fundamental to our judicial system, for those of you playing at home, is I don't have to, if I'm accused of a crime, prove I'm innocent. The state has to prove I'm guilty. I can just sit as a lawyer and punch holes in the state's case. I don't have to call any witnesses. I don't have to prove my client is innocent. They have to prove my client is guilty. And the burden of proof in criminal cases is obviously beyond a reasonable doubt. A little lower than that as a burden of proof is what's called clear and convincing evidence. A little lower than that, the lowest level of proof is what's called by a preponderance of the evidence, meaning that you've proven something is more likely than not. So in this situation, you're flipping a burden of proof. You're essentially saying whoever files the action is presumed to have breached the contract of the marriage unless substantiated grounds exist. So that's going to make
I was thinking
fault grounds incredibly important.
Yeah, well, that was the whole point. And this is where I agree with you. And I when you talk about no fault divorce, all it did was expedite divorce process. People were already going to get divorced regardless.
Right.
The relationship was over. And I agree with that, but this actually made it to where okay, somebody couldn't just kind of like what China did with their law. And we're going to get into that here soon. But the whole point was okay, there would have to be some justifiable reason. If you're going to file for divorce, because from my understanding, divorce law is the only contract that can be broken where if you decide to breach the contract, you could also be the rewarded party, with alimony and, the other party did not want the contract to be breached. and they still wanted it to work, but they're the injured party and they have to pay. And so to me,
Yeah,
it's like looking at it from contract law, like anybody that breaches a contract would have to pay the injured party, and the injured party would be the person that would, you know,
Yeah,
not
unless there
breach.
was a basis. I mean, there are, of course, in contract law, a tremendous number of basis for the breach of a contract, meaning frustration of contract, failure of consideration,
And that would be the substantiated grounds
unconscionability.
exist.
Yeah. So the challenge is, like, I practiced law when we were a fault-based state. So I've
Yeah.
done grounds trials. And the interesting thing about grounds trials is the interesting thing about being a lawyer, which is it doesn't matter what I know. What matters is what I can
We
prove.
could prove. Yeah.
And so what's very challenging in this situation is proving who is at fault in the complex ecosystem of a marriage. Because again, like how we define abandonment. So if a woman has just decided I am not having sex with my husband anymore, is that abandonment? Now, under fault grounds, there was a concept called constructive abandonment, which was
Yeah.
if you did not have sex with your spouse for a period of 1 year and there was no physical incapacity that rendered you unable to have sex with your spouse, that was
That would
considered
be considered
abandonment.
abandonment. Yep.
Once per year. So that was considered, anything less than that was a basis for divorce. So you're telling me once a year, if your spouse has sex with you, if the rest of the time, the other 364 days, they refuse to have sex with you, that's not abandonment? That seems crazy to me. But
Yeah.
the challenge becomes, how do we codify this into law? So one of the things I just want to take a step back before we take a step forward. Fundamentally, you are doing what a lot of people have done. And again, I think with good intentions and a good rational perspective, when the actual details of it come in, it gets a little more challenging. But you're
Yeah.
focusing on barriers to exit. You're saying, look, we got to make it harder to get out of these. We got to make it harder, make people take marriage more seriously. I actually don't believe you're going from the right direction. I think barriers to exit is not the solution. I think barriers to entry.
Yes.
I think we should create barriers to entry. I think the
agree
fact
with
that
you.
you can just go out and get married like it's nothing, and you don't have any idea legally what you just signed up for. You're not really understanding the nature of the agreement and the contract. You're not really thinking it through long term. You're not having, you don't have to have any particular amount of time that you've been together or any particular knowledge of each other. That strikes me as the fundamental problem.
Oh, so I have a fix to that
And
too.
we get so
I think it's
into
2 years.
the wedding itself and like the
Yep.
party and the Instagram moments and all of the bachelorette party and the bridal shower and the what reception and what we're going to have.
So I
that
think that there
instead we
should
should
be
be
a
focused on the
2-year.
nuts and bolts of it.
I think
Yeah.
there should be a
Okay.
2-year premarital course you have to take before you even get approved for your.
See that I like the idea of a course. I like the
Yeah,
idea
like
of
it's like you
premarital
got husband
education.
school, you got husband school,
Yep.
wife school for a year,
Yep.
and then you got couple school for a
Love
year.
that. I
And
love
where
that.
somebody is like throwing all these shitty ass situations at
Well,
you,
I think
and
you
you guys
should
have to
have. I think
navigate
you
them.
should have to. I think that before you get married, you should spend some time with people who've been successfully married for a long time
Mhm.
and people who have been divorced and who are getting divorced or gotten divorced, so that you get a sense of, okay, here's what it looks like when you do it right. Here's what it looks like when you get it wrong. I think
Yep.
that you should have a number of information with each other, kind of sharing it, enforced upon you. I think it should be forced
Mhm.
upon
Yeah.
you. And by the way, if you are in love with this person, this will be fun. This will be
Yeah.
a pleasure. I have
This
friends
is
who are
role play.
Catholic who went and did pre-Cana, and they were like, that was so fun. We talked about all these things. We had to take a quiz on the other person. We had to guess what their answers would be.
Yeah, people put more effort into building a business or even buying a tool than they do in marriage, right?
People put more effort in almost anything they
Yeah.
do than they do marriage. Marriage, it all becomes about the party and the ring and the good time and the who DJ or a
It's
band.
the lifestyle.
What honeymoon. It's not about, hey, I'm about to go into the most important business arrangement I've ever had with a person. The business of the family, the business of children, the business of people sometimes don't even have conversations about hey, if we have kids, are we going to raise them with a religious faith? If
Yeah.
we, if one of us became ill, what's your feeling on extraordinary measures? Or, when your parents die someday, when my parents die someday, when one of our family members gets sick, if we have to move them in, do you think that's something that's our responsibility? Or do you think we should protect the home and have that person put elsewhere, like in a nursing home? have these conversations now,
Yep.
guys.
It's
Like, because these
oddly
are
familiar how close
yeah,
owning a business. I think it's like a 70% chance of a business going out of business after 10
yep,
years, and the
yep,
marriage is the same. So it's kind
yep,
of
same
it's the same
thing.
concept. Yeah.
So I think
So
barriers to entry is the key. And
Right.
then if you've created barriers to entry, then the number of people that are going to
to get
get
married,
married in a whimsical fashion
it's gonna diminish.
is going to diminish. And then I think
Yep,
that's going to solve a lot of the problem. And
I
then I
agree.
think, there is something to be said for considering fault in making other determinations, because one of the painful things I have to tell people is that there is no good spouse bonus and there is no bad spouse penalty.
Yep.
So if somebody comes in and they go, my spouse was cheating on me, what does that do to our respective rights and obligations? And I have to explain to them, yeah, it doesn't change them at all. Like, you don't get anything better or less
Mhm.
based on your behavior during the marriage.
Mm.
That is very hard for people to fathom. It feels very unfair to them. And I get it. I get it. I mean, the danger becomes, how do you balance all of these competing interests? Because, for example, alimony is to some degree a payment that's made by a moneyed spouse to a non-moneyed spouse to kind of create some rehabilitative economic,
Yeah.
circumstances. It also has trickle-down effects on what a kid is going to have available to them. And look, we all know it's not a kid's fault. Like, when parents get
Yeah.
divorced, we know it's not a
It's
kid's
never
fault.
the kid's fault.
So if you say, like, well, then we're not going to give this woman child support. Okay, you're hurting the kid. You're not necessarily just hurting the woman, right? Like, divorce, I've always said that divorce is at best a knife fight in a closet.
When do you think
Like,
child support? See, like
Tough.
when do you think child support should ever be removed? Like, I think when parental alienation is present.
I think the way that the law does it right now is actually pretty good, which is when you can demonstrate a pattern of significant parental alienation, you can use that as a basis for terminating
I like
child
what they
support.
called it before parental alienation. Malicious mother
Yeah.
syndrome.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a little more controversial though, because men do it too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, now they're cleaning up the language even more. They're calling it parental estrangement. And
Yep.
they're saying that is the estrangement a function of alienation or negative gatekeeping, which are two sides of the same coin. Alienation is the active interference or frustration of the parenting relationship or the natural development of a child's relationship with a parent. Negative gatekeeping is failing to do what you could easily do to help facilitate the child's relationship with a co-parent, meaning you could have been helpful, but you decided to be something else.
Yep.
And so those are two very important and equally insidious things that very often are used in concert. I've had a lot of parental alienation trials, and sometimes where my client is accused of being an alienating parent, and they're not. And sometimes where I'm the one who's doing the accusing of the alienation and the negative gatekeeping. And yeah, I mean, they're interesting cases. They're heartbreaking in the sense that,
Well, I think
there
it should be
are.
considered child abuse once it's
It is a
proven.
form of child abuse. It's
And then
100% a form of child. But the problem becomes is that you can't unring a bell. Like, once you've alienated a child from a parent, even if
removing them
you
from the parent that they actually have trust in could be more
yeah,
detrimental in the long
yeah,
run for that child,
yeah,
because
yeah.
and it's psychologically damaging for the child.
I've
Like,
seen
okay,
it. I've seen it so
yeah,
many times. It's
Yeah,
heartbreaking,
I've actually been involved in a few of those cases. It's
It's
very, very
heartbreaking.
hard.
It's heartbreaking. And because it's not a problem that has a judicial solution. I think one of the great
yeah.
mistakes that people make, and I see it all the time as a lawyer, is they think that every problem has a judicial solution, and it doesn't. Like, I think that there are things like I have had to give some men the advice, which is it's very heavy on my heart when I have to give it. It's probably the most heavy-hearted thing I have to do, is when a man comes in and his kids have been victims of significant alienation. I sometimes say to them, look, there's a school of thought that would say, okay, let's fight like hell and let's try to get this and let's try to, and
My
then
dad
there's a
always
school of
said,
thought
like,
that just
what? It's
says
better
walk
just
away.
let it go.
Yeah,
Walk away. They will come
Realize that
find you.
childhood is a temporary
But
state.
in the cases that
Yep.
I've actually experienced, a lot of these children don't actually come looking for their parents. Like, father always kind of thinks, well, when they turn 18, they'll have that choice. But I have seen these
No.
kids literally just like, oh, okay, you know what? They basically become
Yeah.
their mothers, So I've seen
Yeah.
this, and it's very, very heartbreaking because some of
Yeah,
these
it's
women, some
terrible.
of these kids don't come around.
I think
No,
I
it's
think there's
terrible.
like
It's
that's
terrible.
always
And it may
the
not be a
fear.
solution that has a problem. Like,
I
it
know,
may
like
not be a problem that has a solution.
when I went through my divorce, that's what I always found. My attorney was able to prove that there was parental alienation. And you know, like with my son, it was like he was my mini me. Like every day of his life, there's never been a day until we got divorced that where him and I were separated. So he would dress like me. He would just be my little mini me. Me and him would do the jujitsu, football. We'd be in the gym together, you know. And so the judge was able, or my attorney was able to prove that there was significant parental alienation. And I remember, like, you know, talking to my dad about it. And my dad went through the same thing with me when I was a kid.
Mm,
I hated him growing up. Now him and I are best friends. You know, like we have the best relationship. And he, you know, he told me, he's like, you know what, I don't want you to worry. He's like, now I understand like why I went through what I went through. God wanted me to tell
yeah,
you that you will be fine and he will be fine. And there will be a time when he'll come find you. And
yeah,
it gave me hope, you know, it allowed me to, like, you know,
yeah,
rest
yeah.
easy with that,
Well,
you know,
I
but
try
when
to
it
do
comes
that with clients. I try to connect them, like, because I have a number of clients that, you know, the beauty of a long timeline of a career is I have a lot of people that I helped 20 years ago,
Mhm.
and now their kids are, you know, in their late 20s
Mm.
or whatever, or even 30s. And when somebody comes into my office and they're in that horrible position, I can I've talked to these former clients and say to them, "Hey, can I consider you a resource? Like, can I
Yeah,
sit you down with you? You know, can I sit you down with you 20 years ago? And like you can say to them what you wish somebody would told you 20 years ago." And a lot of times I'll do that. I'll do it even with like women who are victims of domestic violence and there's like
That's a
there's no way
huge
I'm getting out of
value.
this and whatever. And I'll call a client who I was a victim of domestic violence 20 years ago and I help them extricate from that situation, and now they remarried, they're happy, they're well, their kids are thriving, they've survived that experience. And I'll say, can you come in? Can you come into the office? Like, I need you to like come in and meet you from 20 years ago and like just be there. And I have to tell you, like the power that they can give that person something I could never give them, because
yeah,
they can give them that lived experience and say to
yeah,
them, listen, I know right now you think that if you let go that this is
you're
gone
losing, yeah,
forever. But I'm telling you, like, if you let go completely and walk away, yes, of course. But there are ways that you can let go and let go in a way that says, hey, look, I'm still here. I'll always be here. The door's always open. I love you. And maintain some level of connection that doesn't create loyalty binds, doesn't make it difficult, doesn't allow this person. Like, it's very hard to fight with someone who won't fight with you. And
yeah.
so, you know, when you're dealing with an absolute crazy person, and I believe you have to be profoundly ill to engage in parental alienation and negative
Oh
gatekeeping.
yeah,
Like, I think the people
they
that do it
are.
are villainous. They are
Well, I think
They
I think
villainous.
it's like their hatred for their
Well,
ex is
it's a
greater than their love for their child.
psychological it's a
Yeah.
psychological warfare, and we see it all
Yeah.
over. Like we even see it in the woke agenda, right? It's using
100%.
words to relabel, to
Yes.
villainize the person. So have
Yes.
you
And
seen,
it's
like, we know why women
definitional creep.
gravitate toward this,
Yeah.
right? Like women are
Yeah.
naturals at this like
Yeah.
psychological warfare.
Yeah.
But now have
Yeah.
you seen men do this as well? Like on is it
Yeah,
like a
nowhere
mixed
near
bag
as
or
many. No,
mm,
nowhere near as many. Parental alienation is a largely female
Now, from what
situation.
I
It really
understand, I
is.
think
And I
the
say that not in
statistic.
any way to be misogynist. I that is my professional experience. And I think that if most lawyers and judges were being honest, they would say the same thing. It
What did they
really
say somewhere
is.
around the statistic around like 67% of the time false accusations are made in family law to
mm,
create that parental alienation?
I don't know the statistics, and the truth is I'm always skeptical of that kind of research, because how you would prove that is very
Yeah,
interesting and challenging to me. I will tell you, as someone who's been, you know, I've represented the alienated and the alienator. I've been what's called an AFC, an attorney for children, which is similar to guardian ad litem, for over 25 years. That's a small part of my practice, but I still do it as a public service where I represent kids in custody
yeah,
proceedings. So I've seen this from every angle. And
mm,
I'm also certified as a parent coordinator, and I've served as a parent coordinator for over 10 years. So I really addressed this from all the different possible ways you could address it. And it is still like primarily women who engage in that
mhm,
kind of behavior. Many women are falsely accused of it. That is
mm,
absolutely true. Just like domestic violence, the majority of domestic violence is perpetrated by men against women. But
mhm.
mhm.
there are plenty of women who falsely weaponize allegations of domestic violence. That's absolutely, like, both of those things can be true. You
At the
know, so
same
like,
time, yeah,
yeah, there are lots and lots of women who engage in parental alienation, negative gatekeeping, and then there are a lot of women who are falsely accused of engaging in it. And the challenge is, this is why, like, look, good lawyers are important. And I have an important job and I carry it, with a seriousness that it deserves. But a bad judge can fuck everything up.
Yeah.
Like a bad lawyer, there's only, I'm a great lawyer. There's only so good I can make. Like you can put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. Like I'm really good at like putting, it's like makeup. Like a good lawyer is like good makeup. Like good makeup can make a beautiful person look way more beautiful.
Yeah.
And a person who's not that attractive look better, a lot better. Is makeup lying? No, it's just accentuating the positive. Well, it's accentuating the positive, accentuating the negative, right? Yeah. Like it's not a lie. It's accentuating
all
the positive,
good things can go to that
negative.
other extreme. Mm-hmm.
Right. So do I think you should wear makeup to a level where you no longer resemble yourself? That seems crazy to me.
If I wake up in the morning and you don't look like you did last night, we got problems.
Well, if I don't even recognize you, like that's different. Like you don't have to look like you looked last night. In the morning, trust me, I look real. My hair does this weird thing. Like
you got to resemble the same person. You still got to resemble.
Yeah, like I still pick you out of a lineup at least. Like so.
You still got to have all your teeth. You have to have all your teeth.
More than 5 minutes, then it's a mask. If it goes over 5 minutes, it's a mask.
Right. And again, I think that it's the same thing. Like a bad judge can really screw things up. Like, and can really, because our system depends on judges paying attention, and very often they don't. Very often
what would you
they're
say
just
in
human
the
and
bill? Besides I guess like the no fault.
1 second, I'm coming.
No worries.
They're like, I want
to
go outside, Dad.
Yeah.
This is a great time to play a commercial. You look like this, and you happen to be struggling with women, and if you like bubble baths and some other gay stuff, it's probably because you use body wash like Metro by Resto Chesto, the most anti-masculine body wash in the world. So if you're tired of being confused for a homo, then I suggest that you use Tactical Soap from Grondike Soap Company. It's a game changer. That's right, a natural pheromone soap that enhances alpha status, masculinity, attractiveness, and charisma. Only Tactical Soap could take you from zero to a hero with the ladies. If you want to get successful with the ladies like yours truly, Glenn Lawrence, then I suggest that you order it right now and get your own Tactical Soap from Grondike Soap Company today. Grondike Soap Company cannot guarantee that you will get a brunette and a blonde in the hot tub with you like Glenn Lawrence, but you may get a redhead. Hey, you. Yeah, you right there. Are you one of those guys who spend all day playing video games, crushing energy drinks, and then wondering why your joystick is the only thing that's getting any action? And do you cry during puppy commercials and like to blame it on your allergies? Yeah, I figured. Listen, what you might be suffering from is a very rare but modern condition known as masculine deficiency disorder. That's right, masculine deficiency disorder. Symptoms could include overanalyzing, oversharing, and a whole lot of underperforming. You know what I mean? Yes, you do. But don't worry. You don't need to schedule another therapy session with that guy that wears that cardigan and ask you how your inner child feels. And you don't need to take any more antidepressants that give you man boobs and emotional clarity. No, what you need is a Fauci-free vaccine. You know what I mean? Fauci-free. I'm talking no needles, no pills, just raw testosterone and righteous aggression. What's the solution? The solution is you going to the Full Spectrum Warriors Winter Summit this year. That's right, the Full Spectrum Warriors Winter Summit. Now, this ain't your typical 3-day man camp where you sit around singing Kumbaya while some bearded yoga instructor tells you to embrace your vulnerability. No, I'm talking about 3 days of hell-forged manhood. You'll be pushed to your limits, physically, mentally, and spiritually. You'll sweat, bleed, and you'll probably curse me out halfway through it as saying, why did I even listen to Glenn? But you know what? By the end, you'll be walking out 10 pounds lighter, holding your head up 10 times higher, knowing that you're 10 times more dangerous too. We're talking about high-intensity training, cold plunges, bonfires, gunpowder, steak, and a brotherhood of warriors who will actually watch your back, not those weak friends of yours who said they couldn't do it because their girlfriend said no. So if you're tired of therapy and you've read all the self-help books and you've journaled all your feelings and you still feel like your balls are missing, well, it's time to stop overthinking and start overcoming. Sign up for the Full Spectrum Warriors Winter Summit today. Come test your limits, reclaim your fire, and rediscover the man that God has always intended you to be. Because listen, the only cure to masculine deficiency disorder isn't hugs. No, what the cure is actually discipline, grit, and a whole lot of gun smoke. Hope to see you there.
Full Spectrum Warrior Protector Summit, Winner 2026. Registration is now open.
I gotta get. So,
I know.
So I want to go to the new China law that recently passed last year, beginning of, I think it was in February that they put it in place.
Yeah.
Where well, let me just like pull it up here so I have it like to reference. But the significant shift they did was like when it came to who owes and who pays principal.
Yeah.
Like if it was your car, your house beforehand, before the marriage,
Yeah.
you don't get to take somebody else's stuff. Now, the only thing that's considered is what was purchased during the course of the marriage.
Yeah.
They also
they
had
narrowly
like,
defined marital property and they broadly defined
Yeah.
separate property, which is what I try to encourage a lot of people to do by prenuptial agreements. Is I try to encourage people to do something similar to that. I'm always hesitant to say that we should consider China a role model for anything that involves interpersonal statutes and legal basis, because I think anytime that you're pointing to a communist country and saying, oh, they're doing something right, they're doing it within a very restrictive context to begin with, a larger global order. I think one of the things that most people like about America is that we do have a certain level of autonomy and agency as citizens. Like freedom is kind of the defining characteristic of the United States, and personal sovereignty is something that we value tremendously. So the ability to form contracts, to break contracts, to petition for redress, when you've been wronged. So I kind of like the individualized nature of that. I think that China is creating a rule set, and I think that what you have to recognize is that marriage, from a legal standpoint, we created a rule set. We can just as easily redefine that rule set, and the rule set is not serving a lot of us. It's ill-equipped. It's it's problematic on a whole bunch of levels. Again, it's just like democracy. Like we have the worst system of government in the world except for all the other ones. Like, and it's the same thing with our legal system. Like, it's the worst one in the world except for all the other ones. Like, it's got all kinds of problems. It's not perfect. But one of the things that I think makes America so unique and wonderful is the fact that our founding fathers created a structure, and they said, this is not a perfect structure. So we're going to leave a process for us to modify this. Like, we're going to create opportunities to amend the Constitution of the United States, because we realize we don't know everything, and we realize we don't know what the future holds. So we're going to create structures, and then we're going to create other structures on how we can change that structure and add to that structure and build on it. And I think we were really one of the first countries to do that, and it's a really, really amazing thing that can be weaponized in the absolute wrong way. And I think that that's what's happening currently, is we build these structures, and then we have a rigidity, and we go, okay, yeah, this is how marriage is. And it's like, marriage is only like that because we made a decision to make it like that. We can change it anytime. We can change it anytime we want to. So if we collectively got together and said, hey guys, 56% of marriages end in divorce, another 10, 20% probably stay together because they're miserable or don't want to give away half their stuff or lose half their time with their kids. We got to come up with a better way to do this. That's all we need to do. That's all we need to do. And we can come up with a whole new structure.
Why would you say like we haven't done that?
I think because we are now in a political climate where no one is interested in really solving problems. They're just interested in pointing. It's the same way as if you posted your Marriage Family Integrity Act PDF up on Twitter or Instagram, all you would get is 10 to 1. You would get 10 people telling you why it's wrong and why you suck and why it could be better or why it's misplaced, to every one person who goes, yeah, that's a really good idea. And that's the problem, is that it's just become a Greek chorus of criticism, as opposed to saying, I like what you did here. I like what you did here. I love that you're trying something. I love that you're taking shots, man. Love that you're taking shots. That's how I felt when I got it. I looked at it. I was like, yeah, I disagree with a whole bunch of concepts in this, but he's taking shots, man. I love that.
The idea was
he's identified the problem.
Yeah, I wanted to level the playing field, like understandably, like, because I look at the current like way that we do family law. And it seems like it's operating on 1970s like statutes, but it's not reflective of what's currently the problem today.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
agree with alimony, and I agree with, child
Yes.
support.
Yes.
I don't agree with like unregulated, oversight though,
Yeah.
right?
I think a tremendous amount of value could be added to our family law system by having the presumption of 50-50 custody embodied into law. I think that unless a person can demonstrate that there is intimate partner abuse and domestic violence of a significant level, a pattern of coercive control, intimate partner abuse, and domestic violence, that there is a presumption of 50-50 custody, that would
Yeah.
solve a tremendous number of problems. And there are a number of state legislatures that are pushing for that, and it's already kind of happening non-legislatively. Like when I started
Yeah.
my career, mom got custody unless you could prove there was something seriously wrong with her.
That was due to
Now,
the tender years doctrine, right?
yeah, tender years doctrine, what was considered the maternal presumption, all that stuff. Then it shifted to, well, that's no longer the law, but kids need a home base, and mom is probably the right person. So, dad will have every other weekend and once a week for dinner. Maybe if we want to be liberal, we'll give him till Monday morning instead of Sunday night. And
Yeah.
that was what it was. Now, in the last 10 years, I think it's really shifted to, there's a presumption of 50-50 unless there's some compelling reason why
Well,
that
I would always say like the law will write it out in paper 50-50, but in actuality, it probably comes down to 35-65 in
Yeah.
practice.
Well, in reality, most people don't analyze their time with their children in percentages. Like you really don't. Like there are very few people that would be like, oh, I've only had 48% of the time. Like, Billy, grab your glove. We need 2%. Like nobody, you want to have substantial, meaningful contact with your children. You want to do the fun part of parenting and the heavy lifting of parenting. So you want to do the weekend fun time, relaxing, making pancakes, doing the whole thing. And
but also still do the structure.
You got to eat your broccoli and brush your teeth and do your homework. And what do you mean you have a bake sale tomorrow? Okay, we got to go get something. Let's go do it. Like all of the hard part of parenting as well as the easy part of parenting. And by the way, when I couch it that way to clients rather than percentages, it's actually much better. Like if I say to a mom, he wants 50% of the time, they're immediately like, what do you mean? He never spent 50% of the time. Whereas if I go in and I go, he wants to like have a parenting schedule where he has to do some of the heavy lifting. And you know what? I think that's a good thing, because why should you be the only heavy in the relationship? Why should you be, mom makes me eat my broccoli and brush my teeth and dad's nothing but fun? Like weekend gym, so much fun. Weekend gym's a blast. Like if the only gym you knew was weekend gym, please, piece of cake.
I've always said that kids need two parents, right? But like you'll hear online everybody saying that fathers are better. Like if you had to pick between who's the better single parent, they'll say fathers are the better single parent. But in my experience and from what I've looked at and what I've seen, it's not that they're better, it's that their parenting foundation, how they parent, is much different than the moms usually.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody who's like, oh, no, a single father is better than the mother? What would your
I think that children do better when they have two actively involved parents. I think that both parents bring unique gifts to a child's life. And again, I won't even gender it. Like, I think even in a same-sex couple, I think that like two parents bring something different to a child's life. Than just a
I think their parenting
parent.
structure is different.
We biology is not a coincidence. Like we are created by two people's biology. And I think that we need two people. Like we need the unique gifts that come from two people. We need not only the DNA of two people and the unique characteristics of two people, but I think we need different perspectives. I don't think a single parent home is ideal. And I don't think anybody who says, oh, being a single parent is the best thing is being honest. They're not. Like no one meant to be a single parent.
I think also there's different stages in a child's life. Like raising my son, like when he was small, I was like, that was the best time for me to be the parent or to be the main, helper in that area.
Mom is the name of God on the lips of children,
But like, as soon as he got like to 16, 17, 18, like that's where dad stepped in. So I think there's different stages, and that's why you need two parents.
Yeah. Dad,
I think
that's
like,
100% true.
I think like, a couple could fail at being husband and wife, but they could still be the greatest, mom and dad to a child.
100%. 100%. Listen,
and I think that needs to be the focus.
I was not a great husband. I don't think I have the resume for it. I'm an excellent ex-husband. I always say that. My ex-wife would say that too. She was like, you were not a good husband. You were an excellent ex-husband. Because the skill set for an ex-husband and the skill set for a husband are two different things.
Yeah.
Like an ex-husband, like I'm impatient. I'm, very like fast moving. I'm a workaholic. For an ex-husband, those are all fine. Those are all fine
Yeah.
traits. For a husband, they're not great traits. They're not great traits. But for a father, they can actually be pretty good too. So like I'm a good dad, I'm a good ex-husband, not a great husband. That's okay. Like not everybody's good at all the same things. Like just
Yep.
because you can cook, it doesn't mean you can farm. Like
Yeah,
those two things
exactly.
don't have a lot to do with each other necessarily, even though they both deal with food. So
You said
I think
something,
that
Tim.
there's
You said something in a previous interview that the problem is that everybody wants to think the other person can be everything to them, and they can't.
yeah,
We can't
yeah,
have each person being everything to us. And that goes for like when
yeah,
women are like, oh, he needs to be my best friend and he needs to be my, I'm like, no, he doesn't
right.
need to be. He
That
doesn't need to be
is
identical
that
to
is too
you,
much.
know?
You got to be the best roommate, best co-parent,
Right.
best travel companion, best sexual partner, best that's a whole lot of stuff,
It's a whole
man.
lot of
That's not
stuff.
only a whole lot of stuff, it's a whole lot of stuff that has nothing to do with each other
Not
necessarily.
enough time in the days, not enough years to live
Right.
that.
And by
Yeah.
the way, some of those things would be antagonistic to each other.
Yeah.
Like if you're really good at one thing, you might not be good at another thing. So I
Yeah.
think what you have to do is play your strengths and figure out. But again, this is where I said that I think some of this has to do with the diffusion of roles, because
Yeah.
women now have been encouraged to have not only traditionally feminine traits, but also all of these traditionally masculine traits. Men have been told you have to be not only a traditional providing, protecting man, but also you have to have the tremendous number of feminine traits. And so, of course, all of us are feeling like we're screwing the whole thing up, and all of us are
Well, it's
looking at
like
our
almost they're
partners.
just making everything really androgynous.
Oh, right.
You know?
And by the way, like if it just turns to gray. When you mix all the
Yeah.
colors together, you just get gray. And nobody
Yep.
wants to live in a gray world. Like we want to live in a world
Well,
where there's
unless you live in
contrast
Seattle.
and polarity. That's true. But the contrast, well, Seattle's a great example of how to fuck up a city.
Exactly.
But if you really look at the polarity, I think that polarity, A, makes a relationship strong, and B, it's a great environment for raising children, because it teaches
So-
children a lot about how different dissimilar elements can come together in harmony.
Hmm.
I want to get to actionable advice, right? Because
Sure.
that's what I attempted to do when I drafted that.
I love that.
You know,
Listen, you took shots, man. I love that you take shots. I think it's great.
but I also did that in that manuscript I sent you, because I took what Gia
Mhm.
wrote in her book, the Love Gap, issue, what you have written in your books, what Thor has written in his books, and then what I wrote in my book. And I tried to like find where they align with the biblical worldview, because that's mainly
Yeah.
the audience
Yeah.
that I have. And
Yeah.
so I created this manuscript, and I came up with like basically I think it's like I think it's 11 chapters, right?
Mhm.
And each one is like an actionable advice, kind of like
Yeah.
taking that step.
Yeah, I think you did
So-
that really well. I think there's a lot of practical perspective there, and a lot of like practical prescriptions for what people can and should do as part of a larger theme, which I think is well done.
You'll
So
see
what
people.
would you say? When you wrote your book, what would you say like is like the best like step first before anybody gets married, before they even get into like the idea of getting married? What should they
Yeah.
prepare for, man or woman, before they even get to that topic?
Yeah, I think that it's really important for people to have difficult conversations early. So I think you have to talk about, some of the things like how will we fight when we fight? I think that's important. I think talking about what are some things that worry you about our future. What are some aspects of yourself that you worry about me seeing or knowing? Or I think that we have to be more honest with our partners. Like you have to really see somebody without their makeup, because it's really lovely to see, like, listen, you take a woman out for, an evening out, and they put on their makeup and they put on something, like there's nothing more lovely than that feeling. Like, it's just, oh, look at this person got all dolled up for me. But the majority of the time together, like you want this person to be able to just be their very authentic, stripped down self and still be beautiful to you and still be comfortable with you. And I think that you have to have that conversation early on. Again, when we're dating, we really try to present our best self to the other person.
Yeah, we said our best
I think that's-
representative,
And I think that's adorable and human and wonderful. And like, it's part of the dance of of romance is like trying to like, oh my God, I hope this person notices me. And then, oh my God, I hope they fall for me. And then, oh, I hope I can keep their attention and stay compelling. Like there's nothing more beautiful than that. It's a dance that's been going on forever and in every species. I mean, you see it with birds and squirrels, like it's amazing.
Yeah, I call it peacocking, right?
Yeah, it is peacocking. I mean, it legitimately is. And I love that. But I think it's part of the dance. It's a beautiful part of the dance. But really, you're going to spend a lot more time in relationship than in courtship. And so courtship, we have to make room for the process of how do we turn courtship into relationship? Because if the first time we start doing that is after the ring comes on, that's how we get the axiom that people say, well, when the ring comes on, the mask comes off. Because suddenly this person is like, all right, you're in now, buddy. You're strapped in. The door is locked. So now I'm going to show you my real face. And it's like, okay, wait, you've had Spanx on your personality this whole time. Like we kind of have to, we have to like, let's be honest with
it's
each
really
other.
deceptive. It's deceptive when you do that. Like you're setting yourself up for failure with this level of deception.
You're setting yourself up for failure. That's the thing, is not just that you're being unfair to the other person. You're setting yourself up for failure because and again, like I've said it in other interviews, that to me, like the love that matters, the love that's worth having, is a person who like sees your flaws, like sees all the things that are wrong with you, all the shit you have to work on, all the stuff that you don't like about yourself,
and they still say,
love you anyway.
Yeah.
Like I've always said, I would no longer really identify as religious and Christian, but I will say that, if there is a devil, I believe that the devil's principal mission would be to convince us that we're so bestial that God couldn't possibly love us. Because I think the most radical thing Jesus ever said, I think, was that the kingdom of God is all around you and within you, and that God loves you. Like that God loves you exactly as you are, as a sinful, broken person. God loves you just as you are. And that is the hardest thing to see and feel, right? To go like, no, I'm not worthy of that. Like if God saw how evil I am, if God saw how sinful I am, if God knew the darkness in me, he'd never love me. And that's what the devil wants you to believe. Like the devil wants you to believe, if God saw how you are, he would never like you. He wouldn't love you. He wouldn't even like you. And to me, marriage is supposed to be that kind of a relationship. It's supposed to be that like, no, this person is not seeing a rose-colored version of me. Like they're seeing my flaws and they love me anyway. They're cheering for me anyway. They love authentic, because here's the thing. If I just show you the best version of myself and I hide all of the parts of me that are flawed or weak or challenged, I'll never feel your love. Because I'm just going to, she loves the performance I'm putting on. She loves the character I'm playing. If she knew who I really was, she wouldn't love me. So there's something really beautiful to me about creating relationship and marriage where people are encouraged to be really honest with their partner about their humanity.
Which is why I think familiarity and comfort is an important aspect of relationships. Like there's a saying, right? Before you get married, have your eyes wide open. Before you say I do, have your eyes wide open. And then after you get married, shut those eyes. The rest of it, you've already said I do. But what we're doing is we've flipped it now. Now we've gone in blind and now we're opening our eyes in the marriage. And that's the wrong time to do it because everybody has their faults. And I say that it's kind of like watching a dog poop on a sidewalk and then going, oh, that ruined my entire day. I'm never going to own a dog. I hate dogs, right? No, that's not the right attitude. It's rather understanding that the person who owned that dog wasn't in proper leadership to take care of a dog, right? And knowing that when you start in a relationship, there has to be grace. There has to be, like for a man, there has to be a leadership there. He's going to have to guide her. She's not going to be perfect. She's going to mess up 10 times, 20 times. You have to be able to have the grace to deal with that, especially with people coming from broken homes now. Like we have what, 50, 60% coming from broken homes. So if we go into every single relationship going, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to start a relationship. Oh, this person, look at all their faults. Like how is that going to help us? Instead, what we should be doing is men,
and similarly, men have to, if we want women to, to submit in the more biblical sense, right? If they want women to say like, okay, I'm going to allow you to lead, You have to be worthy as a leader. You have to be someone who's
that's my
like
biggest
if
complaint
someone
with
has
guys.
placed trust in me, for example, to be the provider, then I have to be very fiscally responsible.
And
And I
I
have to
think, like, I
take
think
very
being a provider
seriously.
is much more than just, like, resources. Like, you're
No,
providing, like, education, you're providing love, you're
sure,
providing
sure.
correction, you're providing
Right.
grace, you're
And
providing
you're
there's a
doing it
lot
from a
more than
place of intelligence, not insecurity.
exactly.
You're doing it from, you're
Yep.
not flexing to flex, you're flexing out of strength. Like it's a
Yes.
feeling of, I'm not saying to educate someone else, you have to educate yourself first. Like you have
Yep.
to be open to learning, right? So like don't lecture me if you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So
That's why I
like
like
you've got
when
to
you
be
say, like, you have
worthy
to
as a
become an
leader.
asset. I like when you wrote in your
Yeah.
book, you have to be someone of an
Yeah.
asset. You have to be an asset to them,
100%.
something worth losing
100%.
to begin with before you even get
Yeah.
into a marriage. I love how you
Yeah.
wrote that. And then, like,
Yeah.
you talk about like not choosing like a teenager. Can you give us a little bit
Right.
of advice? Like, what does that mean? Like, not choose like
Yeah.
picking like a
Well,
teenager.
I think that look, the metaphor I always use is when people get married, it's like when you if somebody said to you when you were 19 years old or 20 years old, what car do you want? You'd be like, "Oh, I
Mm.
want a Lambo or I want a Mustang or I want okay." And then I go, "Oh, by the way, this is the only car you're ever going to have in your whole life." You'd be like, "Wait, what?" No. Oh, okay. Like first of
Give
all,
me a Bentley then.
I don't know. Well, like what car am I going to want when I'm 70? Like I've never been 70. I don't know. So like you have to think about, but that's what marriage is. Like well, when I met my ex-wife, I was 18, 19 years old. She was blonde. She had really nice boobs. Like, I don't know. That's all I thought what more do you need? Like that was it. That was kind of all I
I mean,
wanted.
well, I mean, nice boobs
I had a
are
You're good.
prerequisite.
No, it's value, tremendous value. But you know what I'll tell you is, and I had like cool long hair and a motorcycle, and like that was what she wanted, right? So was that enough? No, of course not. Like that's not enough for like a pairing for life. So again, is that why our marriage failed? No, it. But I think there are lots of people that like that's the thing that attracts them is their physical connection to each other or the appeal of the person, whatever. But the truth is like there is a tremendous amount of like honesty you have to have with yourself, and your teenage self is going to want what you want when you want it right now, what's shiny, what's interesting, what's compelling, as opposed to the adult version of yourself that's going to go, hey, look, long term, what's going to be good for me? What's going to make me thrive? What's going to create conditions under which I can become my best self? Like discipline is trading what you want now for what you want most. And so when you're a teenager, you're not that disciplined most of the time. Like you want what you want now, and you're willing sometimes to delay gratification to get what you want most. But like I have to tell you, as a 53-year-old man, the most defining characteristic of me versus my youth is patience. Like
Yeah.
I've seen a long enough timeline now that like I'm patient. I'm patient with other people. I'm patient with myself in a way that I never was before because
I
that
think
came
that
with
comes from
maturity.
experience though. Yeah, like a maturity
Yeah.
experience, like just,
Yeah.
having to live life and understand like, okay, there's grace that's needed. People we need to
Yeah, because
extend
when
that
we're
level of
young, we
grace.
want everything now, now, now. And then when we get to a
Right.
certain age, we're like, we got all those things if we had just learned to just
Yeah.
like be present in the moment,
Yeah. Well, I said it to a friend of mine. One of the young guys who works for me is in his 20s, and he's a single guy in his 20s. And we were talking about the difference between dating when you're in your 40s and 50s and dating when you're in your 20s. And I said, listen, girls in their 20s still have Christmas in their eyes. Like they
Hmm.
still are convinced that like Prince Charming is out there and that they're going to just find the perfect. And women in their like 40s are like, if he has like some of his hair and no felonies, great. Like that's fine. Like
As long as
it's
he got all
like
his teeth.
the
He has to have all his
standards
teeth.
really start to like go way down because they realize like, okay, look, like humans, like men are flawed, women are flawed, like we're
Yep.
human, and they have a more realistic worldview because life will do that to you. Life will humble you. Life will teach you a lot about your shortcomings and the shortcomings of others, which again, to me, it's kind of part of the beauty of it.
Well,
Like
I think that's like
I
the biggest problem when we see these like the gender war, on
yeah,
Twitter going off, like
yeah,
men and women. I don't think that like the biggest problem is accountability or lack thereof accountability, but it's on both sides. to me, it's
Yeah.
on both sides. Like,
Yeah.
just as much as
Yeah.
the guys are demanding women to be accountable, guys need to be accountable for their shortcomings and realize, like, hey, you know what?
100%.
I played a
100%.
role. But we
Look,
want to
this
move
is
on
a
to the lightning
this is a
round.
zero-sum game. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, so this is a lightning round. No long
Love the lightning
answers, just
round.
short answers
Love it.
only.
Oh, well,
All right.
I'm known for my brevity.
Uh,
I said that with a
so here we
chuckle.
go. Number one, no fault divorce, net harm or net good?
Net good. I think it's net good.
And
I
mandatory
think that
cooling
with that,
off.
I think there should be a cooling period. I don't think that it should be something you can do like a quick fire. But no, I think it's a net good because I will tell you, grounds trials burned up the limited counsel fees that people had very, very quickly, and that was not good for anybody but the lawyers.
I think I already know the answer to number three, but if someone files for no fault, should there be presumed breaching party?
I don't have a problem with a legal presumption there. I think that the burden of proof is something that can be it can be fluid. Like I could envision a legal system where there is a presumption of guilt as opposed to a presumption of innocence. It just has to be consistently applied. So I don't think that, like, if you give me that rule, it's just like the electoral college. Like, give me a rule set. I'll then formulate my strategy around the rule set. But neither of the rule sets is particularly fair or unfair. It's just a rule set. So I think either of those rule sets is totally fair.
Does the system reward the filer?
Like not
the
in my
person who
experience.
files?
No, not in my experience. No. I mean, I have to caveat that. What I'll say is, no, if anything, the person who files has to go first at trial. So when you get to trial, very often, if the person who's the defendant wants to like extort a settlement out of you, they know you have to go first and you're going to burn a lot of counsel fee prosecuting your case. So that creates a leverage for the defending party. But what I would say is the person who files first in like an order of protection proceeding or makes false allegations of domestic violence and things like that gains significant tactical advantage. I have a case right now where somebody went in this Friday, got an order of protection they had absolutely no right to. And now my client got vacated out of the residence, and Monday we're going into court and we're at a significant tactical disadvantage and we're fighting just to get back to level ground. And that is incredibly frustrating, but happens all the time.
Should custody default be 50-50 unless proven otherwise?
I believe so, yes. I think that would be a much more equitable system. I think it would be better for children. I think that the number one pushback against it is from the domestic violence contingency, like the people that run domestic violence clinics and shelters and things like that. And I think that there are ways to control for that and to screen for domestic violence. And I think that in domestic violence situations, there should not be the presumption of 50-50. But I think that you have to have a hearing sooner rather than later as to whether allegations of domestic violence are valid or invalid. The truth fears no trial. Judicial scrutiny is the solution to most of these things.
What about mandatory DNA testing at birth? Yes?
I don't have any issue with that. I'm fine with that. I think that actually makes a lot of sense. It's not expensive.
I think so too.
The tech is there. That was one of the pieces of your bill I thought was very good, Glenn. I thought that there's absolutely no downside to having DNA testing at the hospital and going. I think so.
I mean, I think if the birth certificate is a legal document, right? Then
it takes nothing too. It's a cheek swab now. It's not even invasive in any way. There's absolutely no reason not to do it. Anybody can get a DNA test. All you have to do is bring a petition for an order of affiliation. And so anybody can get it anytime anyway. So why not create a situation where people have to ask for something that feels awkward to ask for? It should just be automatic. It should just be mandatory. When a kid comes when a kid is born, if someone's going to be named the putative father on the birth certificate, whatever it's going to be,
you should know. They should make sure
there should be a bank of that DNA. Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
False allegations. Should there be penalties to match the level of harm done?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think that perjury should be punishable in a real way. I will tell you, one of the greatest shortcomings of the legal system is how often people lie with absolutely no repercussions of any kind. I think the two biggest changes we could make to the legal system that would have instant and profound effects is we should have hearings much faster. like much
Mhm.
sooner in the process. You
Due
shouldn't have to
process.
wait for a hearing. But due process like involves the swift administration of justice, and justice delayed is justice denied for many
Yep.
family law situations. So we should be having hearings on alienation, hearings on allegations of domestic violence very, very quickly after the allegation is made. And then if there is a finding that a person omitted, significant relevant facts or made material misrepresentations of fact, there should be significant punishments for that. There should be real penalties for that. There should be presumptions that a person is not a good custodial parent if they'd make those kinds of misrepresentations against a co-parent. That is a major change we could make very easily. And I think it would have broad-reaching positive effects on families.
Oh, I agree. Go ahead, Jeff.
So, last question. If you had one reform, what is the hill that you would die on?
I would say sooner hearings. Yeah, sooner hearings. I mean, I'm a
Okay.
trial lawyer, so I'm a fan of hearings. And a lot of lawyers, particularly lawyers that go into family law, they like negotiation and they like banging on tables, but they don't actually like trying cases. And I think one of the reasons why I've become very successful in my field is the 5 magic words. Please call your first witness. I've never feared that. I love a courtroom. I'm way more comfortable in a courtroom than I am in my living room. So my solution is let's have trials sooner rather than later, because scrutiny is the disinfectant, and I think that change would dramatically change the way that family law. Most people who've been through a divorce will tell you, like, the dragging on and the constant conferences where everyone makes allegations, but no one has to prove anything, and constantly being told by your lawyer, yeah, eventually we'll put on that evidence. And then it never actually
Never
sees
comes
the
out.
light of day. No
Yep.
one's ever held accountable. That's the problem with the family law system. And we're misidentifying the problem. Like, we're pointing at all these side effects and going, oh, that's the problem. And it's like, no,
We're not
that's
looking
not
at the
problem.
symptoms.
The real problem, the root problem, is we're not forcing people to prove anything. We've turned the court system into a Baghdad market where everybody just goes in and yells a bunch of stuff and nobody has to prove anything. And that is not what our system was designed for. Our system was designed for due process. We have concepts like hearsay, where trials are based on the right to confrontation, as opposed to, like, I heard from a guy who once told me that this happened. Like, it has to be the real, who saw what, when, where, why, and they get confronted under cross-examination. And I tell you, like, I told my son when he graduated from law school, I was like, listen, the truth has a way of coming out at trial.
Always.
Like,
Always.
sometimes despite my best efforts, like, I'm
Yeah.
a really good lawyer, and there are times where my job is to throw up red herrings and smoke and mirrors
But
and
with
try to
anything-
detract attention, to try to get attention away from the truth, and the truth has a way of coming out. So that's why we should not be afraid of that.
Yeah, don't you think, like, Kim K's doing a great job at, portraying a lawyer, family law?
I'm gonna hang up right now. I'm gonna hang up right now. Why would you say something that hurtful, Glenn? I thought we were friends, Glenn. Why would you talk to me like that? This is such my pet peeve.
I know you've been talking about it on your show all the time.
She's the only person who didn't graduate from law school and had a law school graduation party for herself. I am just apoplectic that this has become what people think divorce lawyers are like. And I think my own personal crusade now, I never wanted to be famous, but now that I'm potentially the most famous divorce lawyer in the world, I've considered it my personal mission to show people that we're nothing like Kim Kardashian. That's my gig now. That's my job.
I had to
talk
throw it
about
out
a
to you.
slow creek, right? Like, she just, like, took everything and just, like...
Falling feels like flying for a little while, G, and then it just, you hit the ground.
Exactly.
I had to bring it up because you talk about it. Like, you made that show. Actually, I think you don't realize how much you made that show.
How you gonna
famous.
end on that note, bro? That's so
No, but
you.
Okay. Realistically, what are 3 non-negotiables to stay married? Because this is what you talk about in your book. You talk about this, but what are 3 non-negotiables that you think that need to be talked about and addressed?
Yeah, 3 non-negotiables. I think you have to create. I think you have to have no low blows when you fight. I think that's key. I think that there have to be some things you just can't unsay. So you have to just know that, like, there are certain intimacies that people share as part of being married to each other that if they ever get weaponized, there's no going back. So I would say no low blows, no eye gouging. Like, you got to have basic rules in the fight. 2, I think you gotta have a blunt, like you have to have some built-in system of checks and balances in the relationship, just like you would in a democracy. So whether that's once a week going for a walk, or whether it's like once in a while sending each other an email or leaving each other a note, like there has to be some system built in as to how we share what we're doing well and what we could work on.
Yeah, like I
That's
think for women they have to stop testing men with chaos, right? Like I tell women all that
yeah,
time, if you feel
yeah,
like you're reaching that point where you're going to blow, walk away. It's okay to
yeah,
take even 24 hours, you know, like
yeah,
the saying,
yeah.
"Oh, you can't sleep, don't go to sleep mad."
Don't go
I'm
to
like,
sleep
"No.
angry.
No, no, no. You
Yeah,
don't need to
yeah,
like fix it that day.
yeah,
Walk away.
yeah.
Don't
You
create
just
No,
just
chaos."
put a
I
pin in it.
agree. I agree. Putting a
Mhm.
pin in it sometimes is really useful. Getting out of the emotional state of it and being able to be a little more clinical about it is good.
Yeah.
What I would also say is I just think that make the corners that you back yourself into corners you can get out
Mm.
of, Like I think I learned as someone who negotiates for a living that like you got to give people a way to back out of things. If you
Mm.
corner an animal, like you're guaranteeing a fight, And I think sometimes we get like you can be right or you can be happy. And I think that you can, if you really like focus on being right and you focus on winning the fight, like I don't believe you can win a fight with your spouse ever.
Yeah.
Like, I think that if you win, you lose because you made them feel small, you made them feel hurt. And if you lose, you lose. So you just can't win. Like, there's no winning. So there really is this sense of like, look, we're either partners in this project or we're not, And if we're
But doesn't
partners
that
in
work
this thing,
for that works for all relationships? Like think about it. Like
yeah,
even for people online. Like I think about all these people that
yeah,
usually like come at you or they come at us.
yeah,
Like it's always
yeah,
about being they want to be right instead of listening to a different
yeah.
perspective, right?
Well, listen, my mother, passed away about 10 years ago, but she was a fascinating person. And one of the things that she used to
I'm
say to
sorry.
me all throughout growing up, no, she was amazing. She touched a lot of lives in her time. She used to say to me all the time, and I say it all the time now, but it was the most powerful lesson she ever taught me. And she used to say to me, there's no limit to how much good you can do in the world if you don't care who gets the credit. Like, and I have to tell you, like, it's so true.
That
Like,
is
if you just
so
do
true.
good things with
Mhm.
no expectation of reward, with no seeking credit, like, if anything, do it and bounce. Like, do it before anybody even knows who you were. And they just go, wait, who is that guy? What just happened? Like, like, I love walking into a situation, fixing it, and being like, thanks, walk out. And it's like, wait, what was that? And just show people that, like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, you do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. You don't do the right thing
Yep.
so that people will applaud you. You don't do the
Beautifully
right
said.
thing performatively. So
Well, I
I
mean, it's
think
like
that in a
you don't do it for the accolades. You do it because it's the
yeah,
right thing.
just do it because it's the
It's
right
the
thing.
same it's the same argument when I hear people go, "Oh, well, what does marriage benefit me?" I'm like, "If you are looking at things of what
Yeah,
benefits you,
yeah,
then
yeah,
you've
You're
missed the
yeah,
looking
whole
at it for the
point."
wrong
yeah.
reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's the same thing. Like, I think that if
Mhm.
there's no amount, like there's no limit to how much good and joy you can bring as part of a member of a family, a spouse, a parent, if you don't care who gets the credit.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
if you just have the attitude of like, hey, we're a team. I want the team to win. Military people figured this out a long time
Yep.
ago. They're like, you know what? Unit, core, like that's how it goes, right? Like I am part of a team and the team is to thrive, and that's what's important. The importance is the team thriving. It's not me. And I really believe that if we can get back to that mindset in the family unit, in the marriage, in culture, and then in society, I think there's no limit to how much improvement we could have. It's just something we've really, really lost. We've
Yeah.
become ruggedly individualistic to the point where the dominant theme of the United States is every man for himself.
Arrogance.
Like,
It's
it really is
arrogance.
no longer, it's amazing to me that something that was as well-intentioned as progressive liberal politics, which was the idea that, like, hey, we should have room for a diversity of perspectives in our society, that somehow turned into well, you're not a woman, so you can't understand a woman's perspective. Well, you're not a woman of color, so you can't understand a woman of color's perspective. Well, you're not a woman of color who's disabled, so you can't understand my perspective. Okay, so what you're saying is no one can understand anyone unless they've lived their exact life, which is basically rugged individualism.
Yeah.
Which is the opposite of society. It's the opposite of progressive liberalism. The idea of progressive liberalism is to say, you're black, I'm white, you're gay, I'm straight, but we're human. We have all these things in common. We have all these fears in common. We have all these truths in common. We have this biology in common. Like, we have so much, and we're trying to all live in peace and figure out some way to navigate and live our best lives. Like, we have so much in common. And instead, it's now our whole society is turned into, you can't possibly understand me. Okay, what am I supposed to do then? If I can't possibly understand you, I can't do anything for you. Okay, now what? So you just want me to sit there and tell you that, like, okay, whatever you do, you're right to do it. Whatever I do, it's irrelevant because you couldn't understand my perspective and I can't understand yours. That is a recipe for just disaster and for
it's like they already hate.
Success.
It's like they're trying to fix it when they already hate each other. It's kind of like a marriage trying to fix it when you already hate each other. Like, it doesn't work, right?
Right. Whereas if we approached it from a place of commonality, common purpose, common perspective, I think we would all be much better off. I think if we didn't care who got the credit, there's a whole lot more we could do of good in the world.
Yeah. That's why I drafted that, like, playbook. I call it the playbook for guys, how to stay in love. And that's why I wanted to send it to you, see what you thought about it, because I really wanted to tackle it from multi different views, and it's not just my view. I incorporated all these views that align.
Well, you'll have to have me on again, because I'll go chapter by chapter with you on it, because I have a lot of thoughts on it. It's great. It's great.
I would love to do it in person. That's what I want to do.
Oh yeah, we got to set that up. We'll set it up when next time I get out there on the East Coast. We'll definitely have to do it.
Listen, I'm out on the West Coast pretty often. We'll get you out on the East Coast sometime, and I'm sure we could probably talk another 2-3 hours and have absolutely a million more things to still talk about. I really enjoy your perspective. I enjoy talking to both of you. So I'm really glad we have the opportunity to do it again.
I have loved watching your all of the stuff that's coming out on social media. I always gain some insight. You're definitely a delight to talk to. So thank you.
Thanks.
So James, though, like, for real though, like, for the next ex-wife, like, okay, I need you to help me set up a prenup that's like ironclad. Okay.
Absolutely. Piece of cake. I'm on it.
Glenn walks in with a dominant presence. Voice cuts deep like a sermon with essence. Gia steps up, pure elegant grace. Beauty with brains puts the world in its place. They light the mic, that truth ignites, burning through the fake in the dead of night. No labels, no camps, no tribal cage. They're carving out truth on an empty page. They're relentless warriors, forged like Thor. Modern Viking knocking down every door. You can't pin them down, can't put them in a box. They'll stomp it flat and break your locks. Ceilings, please, they leap sky high, shattering limits you set with a lie. They'll lead in the way, believe that. No simps, no saints, no soft disguise. They see through the games and the alibis. They're not here to please, they're here to lead. Truth and balance, yeah, that's the creed. It was boom, energy of truth on fire. They're calling out the world's desire. From fake ideals to moral decay, they're lighting up the modern age. No one's safe, not the church, not fame. They're flipping the script, rewriting the game. Love and logic, heart and soul, saving the truth for this nation's soul.